I just performed the ritual of dragon awakening, yet it made all the elders wet their pants. For I received the acknowledgement of 4 elemental powers. Usually, awakening just 2 elements is enough to become a dragon king. So are you really one of the dragon clan? The man was originally a cancer patient, who passed away after 4 years of chemotherapy. Watching that fluctuating lifeline finally flatline to 0. Everyone knew what that meant. Indeed, he was reborn. Looking at the strangely dressed man before him, he felt puzzled. But when he glanced at the mirror nearby, he froze in shock. Who was this person? Could it be me? I've been reborn as a dragon. To accept this absurd situation, he agonized for several days. But he finally accepted this reality. Because this was a dragon, standing at the pinnacle of the continent. In countless novels and manga, there are no weak dragons. Being reborn as the world's strongest dragon race feels quite nice. Most importantly, dragons' lifespans are incomparable to other races. They live an average of 10,000 years. Compared to his previous life, this was undoubtedly the best gift. At this moment, he couldn't stop grinning. Just then, a man picked him up. And he was Iroh's father. Now it's time for us to eat. Soon Iroh arrived at the dining table, but his heart was now struggling greatly. Because he never expected dragon food to be such slimy stuff. Is this really edible? Iroh would rather jump off this place than eat a bite. But now I'm a dragon. I'll have to do as the locals do. Then Iroh quickly put the food in his mouth. Oh my goodness, it's delicious. The protein content is 60 times that of beef. He hadn't expected dragon cuisine to be so good. Then his father beside him urged him to eat more, which stunned him. Dad's gaze was so mushy. Upon hearing this, he was thunderstruck. Who's dad? Apparently, in dragon society, there's only the term father. Then he had a flash of inspiration. In that case, you should call me dad from now on. Come on, say dad. So Iroh shot him a look of extreme disgust. Is this guy an idiot? But from what he's saying, he seems to be a dragon too, and I don't even know his name yet. Then Iroh slowly asked, what's your name? This broke his father's heart. After a whole month, you finally ask your father's name. Listen well, son, your father's name is Genlock. Hearing this, Iroh froze, because he felt this name was incredibly familiar. Could it be that Genlock, the world-destroying demon dragon? Now Iroh wet his pants. At this moment he was trembling with fear, then immediately left this place. Because he needed to face something. He grew increasingly suspicious about this fantasy world. Soon he arrived at the library. After consulting numerous books, it was just as he had suspected. The Howard Empire. This was the empire's name that appeared in the web manga he read before his death. So he wasn't just reincarnated, but had entered that web manga. But how could his current gentle father possibly be the demon dragon? Just then he recalled the manga's plot. After arrogant humans killed his son, he dyed the entire continent red with blood. But surely he must have many children. Then Iroh asked his father if he had any brothers, sisters, or siblings. But the answer made him break out in cold sweat. Because he and his wife had agreed to have only one child. Which meant there wouldn't be any more in the future. So that meant the one who dies would be himself. I never expected to be so unlucky. Goodbye, my father. I was reborn. But as a short-lived being. Back in his room, Iroh was very depressed. Because this ending was still the same as his previous life. But should I just accept my fate? Rather than helplessly waiting for death, why not try my hardest to change things? Because my fate isn't entirely predetermined. Iroh clearly remembered the year Genlock became a demon dragon. From this he could determine when he died. Dragon year 3589. And now it's year 3090. So it's between his 498th and 499th year. If I can just survive past this time period, wouldn't I be able to change the plot? Then I can live on as a powerful dragon. Ha ha ha. Scene change. Now it's mealtime again. And Iroh's appetite shocked even his father. Dragon cuisine is really good. I can't mistreat my stomach in this life. I must be a strong eater. Meanwhile, a black beetle was quietly approaching, then landed on the food he was about to eat. Seeing this, his father instantly revealed his true form. Son, stop eating. Then swatted it away with one palm. At this Iroh was very angry. Hey, don't waste my delicious food. Only after Genlock caught the beetle did he breathe a sigh of relief. Although this insect poses no harm to adult dragons, it's extremely poisonous to young dragons. Hearing this, Iroh suddenly felt the urge to pee. So I almost died just now? At this, he realized he couldn't be careless anymore. Scene change. Iroh was leisurely reading a book in his hands. But unknown to him, danger was quietly approaching. A puppet soldier suddenly swung a giant axe at him. Just as he was about to meet his end, Father instantly appeared before him, crushing the puppet in one grip. Seems wearing enough diapers wouldn't help. Who could have imagined nearly dying twice in such a short time? Could I be cursed? And the following days confirmed his suspicion. On a clear morning, he stepped out of the castle for the first time. Just when he thought he could play happily, the sky suddenly filled with dark clouds, and at this moment he felt a sense of unease. The next instant, a bolt of lightning struck directly at him. So what the hell? But before he could recover, lightning struck him a second time. Well, now he wouldn't even need diapers anymore. But nobody would have thought. There was even a third lightning bolt. Was God really determined to take his life? And my old father could only hold my cold body and weep. Son, how could you be gone? Scene change. Now back in his room, Iroh was still shaken. Nobody could have imagined being struck by lightning 3 times in half a day. It must be the original plot forcing him to die. But there are still several hundred years until the death time. And it's supposed to be at human hands. Is it because I don't want to die now, so the plot is changing? Where are the stars? If I die now, would the demon dragon never emerge? At this moment, a pile of questions made him increasingly confused. But now it wasn't the time to think about these things. Because he needed some countermeasures, that is, ways to protect himself. Then he pushed open his father's door. That's right, Daddy. So he directly reached out asking Dad to bring out the family's life-saving equipment. Time hourglass, banshee veil, heart of steel, bring them all. But Father informed him that his level was too low to use them now, and he needed corresponding attributes too. Good son, you can learn them in a few hundred years. But Iroh brought out his charm offensive. I hate waiting, I want to learn now. Under his persistent coaxing, his old father finally agreed to his request. But before that, they needed to go somewhere first. Dragon children must visit the elders to understand their attributes for the first time. Hearing this, Iroh was stunned. But regardless, he could finally practice magic. If nothing else, calling him Daddy really worked. And he was now curious where the dragon elders were. Genelok smiled. Silly child, of course they're in the sky. The next instant, his old father transformed into a handsome blue dragon. Seeing this, Iroh's eyes lit up. Will I be this handsome in the future? Then he nervously climbed onto his old father's hand. Genelok instantly transported them into the sky. Unexpectedly, they flew for half a day and still hadn't reached the top. As Genelok passed through the cloud layer, we arrived in outer space. So the dragon elders are all in outer space. And this is the dragon's sacred place, Cherry Blossom City. Moments later I arrived in the palace. Then Genelok gave his greetings to Sandra. He is the leader of the elder ancient dragons. And Iroh also hurriedly bowed to them. Seeing this, Parmas was very pleased. Nobody would have thought 623 years had passed. Then through their conversation, Iroh learned that he was his grandfather. At this moment I gave him an admiring look. So my grandfather is so handsome? This made Parmas bubble with joy. Of course, just look whose grandfather I am. The elders on the side are very envious. Then the great elder indicated to Genelok that the child was still young. Isn't learning magic too early? Upon learning it was Iroh's own request, Parmas was overjoyed, truly worthy of being my grandson. You old fellow, just keep showing off. Then the elders had Iroh stand in the middle. As the elders activated their elemental powers. In the name of the elemental gods, please hear my summons. At this moment Iroh felt various different attributes. Under the elders' guidance, he first gained the acknowledgement of the time element. Hearing this, Genelok was startled. Because non-natural attributes are generally stronger than natural attributes. Just then, the power element in Parmas's hand also showed a reaction. This delighted him. Who would have thought my grandson would have dual attributes? But before he could finish speaking, Elder Lotus's space element also reacted. This shocked even the great elder. Because only the Super Dragon King Kaithus and Dark Dragon King Rothbelia possessed 3 elements. Surely this child would write new history. At this moment another elder hurriedly indicated to everyone, we missed one, the power of spirit. Currently Iroh was still happily playing with the elemental powers. Haha, all my precious babies. Just then he noticed why everyone had gone quiet. When he looked up he found all the elders staring with wide eyes. So are you really one of the dragon clan? At this Iroh froze. What's going on? His old father was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Scene change, he returned home. Iroh hadn't expected to awaken 4 elemental powers. To make those elders show such expressions, this must be an existence that breaks the balance. If that's the case, could he solve everything that happens in this work by himself? But what use is having such good talent if I might die before growing up? However, there's still hope. Although facing crises is a fact, it's also an opportunity. I can only keep improving my abilities. Come on. Brave little dragon is not afraid of difficulties. More importantly, he isn't Roy from the original work. And he has a general understanding of the manga's plot. What's puzzling Iroh now is, between magic techniques and personal attribute skills, which should he learn first to better survive? After some thought, he decided to start both simultaneously. After all, this body is a dragon blessed with magical power, and possesses 4 attributes. Just as he was about to start learning, unexpectedly, it was mealtime again. As the strongest eating dragon, not being enthusiastic about eating means something's wrong with your head. Although these spirit medicines are extraordinary existences, if ordinary people ate them carelessly they would explode. Dragons' bodies possess natural magic that can transform it into their own attributes. All of this is related to the dragon heart. Iroh now just wanted to eat well to become strong. I didn't realize that eating could be tiring. Scene change. While Iroh was sleeping, a space tunnel suddenly appeared above him. Then a fork appeared out of nowhere in the room. The next day, when Iroh got up he suddenly fell. And that fork was standing right where he fell. This made him break out in cold sweat. What a ridiculous way to die. Seems he needs to be more careful in the future. Unexpectedly, it was mealtime again. But while he was eating, everything went black before his eyes. When he opened his eyes again he was in bed. This made Iroh feel very strange. Feels like there's a gap in his memory, and the doll is fixed too. Then he hurriedly found Genelok, and told him about these strange things. Hearing this, his old father was also stunned. Then indicated Iroh not to worry, because this is the sleep period every dragon must go through. Dragons experience it twice in their lifetime, and your first sleep period is approaching. It usually lasts about 100 years. Hearing this, Iroh was dumbfounded, sleeping for 100 years. This is simply ridiculous. He was very resistant to this, because he didn't have much time to learn anyway. To keep himself awake, he decided to list out things that make one sleepy. But unexpectedly, after persisting for a few days he was already too tired. When he picked up his book again, everything suddenly went black before his eyes. Iroh, you've got to hang in there. But when he opened his eyes again, his old father was already by his side. This puzzled Iroh. I just took a nap. But Genelok told him today was his 100th birthday. Hearing this, Iroh was dumbfounded. It turns out just before this Iroh had fallen asleep without realizing. Seeing this, Genelok could only carry him back to his room. But during this period many strange things happened. Iroh's room would collapse at intervals. It felt like someone was deliberately destroying it. To protect Iroh through his sleep period safely, Genelok sacrificed himself to protect him for a full 60 years. Then he began investigating the cause of all this, but found no clues at all. For this he destroyed everything that could harm Iroh, and told Parmas about everything. Parmas indicated he needn't worry too much, because a genius's growth is always accompanied by disasters. But whether gods or demons, Genelok would not allow anyone to harm his child. Scene change. Iroh looked at his handsome self in the mirror, found he had indeed grown a bit taller. But he was curious why he hadn't been buried alive. After all, he had slept for 100 years. Did I not move while sleeping? It's really puzzling. But anyway, he had survived. Meanwhile, he also noticed that Dad looked much thinner. Thinking about it, he really had caused him a lot of worry. From now on I'll be a good and obedient person. Another 100 years passed unconsciously. Iroh finally had enough magical power to support transforming into human form. While he was practicing, a voice interrupted him. It was a starlight fairy. It turns out when Iroh's sleep period ended, Genelok had given him a gift. But unexpectedly a little person jumped out from inside. This startled Iroh. In an instinctive reaction he was knocked flying, because at the time he thought it was a big fly. And seeing a Dragon Clan fairy was also very honored to introduce himself. From his words, he learned that a fairy's greatest wish in life is to serve the Dragon Clan. For this they had prepared all sorts of attire, just to show themselves. This made Iroh stunned. Should living fairies be treated as dolls? He was very resistant to this, and asked Genelok to send him back. But unexpectedly Finn grabbed his tail tightly begging to let him stay. No choice, so Iroh could only keep him temporarily. Though their abilities are quite good. Space magic can store anything, letting Iroh fill his stomach anytime, anywhere. This feels not bad. Meanwhile the sky suddenly filled with dark clouds. Iroh hadn't expected it to come again, but he felt no fear at all. because he has this stone that can absorb the thunder element, and he could also convert it into intermediate element stones. Now he's obtained a medium grade one. Just as Iroh was taking it off, unexpectedly, the heavens had another trick up their sleeve. But fortunately, Iroh had also trained in magic. It turned out that to avoid injury, he only focused on spatial attributes. So his other attributes were just average. But regardless, this also gave him hope for survival. The scene shifts to him discovering his father seems to have some significant thoughts. It turns out Elder Kurdak is retiring this time. This made Iroh very puzzled. Why was his dad going to Silver Flower City? Genelok scratched his head, saying he might go to take over his position. At this, Iroh gave a thumbs up. My dad is really capable. In the past years, it wasn't just Iroh who had grown through constant training. Genelok had reached a realm that dragons couldn't surpass. Only someone of this caliber could be called the final boss. Under the enhancement of both evil and magical elements, he ultimately became the strongest dark magic dragon. But that kind of thing won't happen this time. Meanwhile, his father seemed hesitant to speak. This left Iroh puzzled. It turned out that after taking over the elder position, he couldn't return home. Usually, dragons with children to raise would be excluded, but unfortunately, Genelok was an outstanding candidate, and he would have to serve for 10 years. At this, Iroh was stunned. What? Just 10 years? You can go with peace of mind, it'll pass in a blink of an eye. I thought it would take hundreds of years. Now it's just 10 years. At this, his father was heartbroken. My son doesn't want me anymore. You're not expecting me to cry and cling to you, are you? His father laughed. Haha, how embarrassing, how could I? Won't you try to keep me here at all? Seeing this, Iroh sighed softly. I'm not a child anymore. The scene shifts. His father was about to leave for Silver Flower City, so he kept reminding him to eat well and rest. But Iroh couldn't take it anymore because he had been saying the same thing for an hour. He would be late if he didn't leave soon. Then his father took out a small package. It was a communication crystal. Iroh just needed to infuse magic power to talk with him. Seeing this, Iroh's eyes lit up. This sounded like a nice treasure. Then I should be able to contact Silver Flower City too. Hearing this, his father was immediately dumbfounded. Hee, I suppose that might work. Iroh was speechless. A moment later, Genelok slowly flapped his wings. And while in the air, he still reminded Iroh. Good son, remember to miss your father. Iroh sighed softly, thinking his father was acting like a fool. It turns out Iroh had learned from others that during his hibernation period, Genelok had protected him in his room for a full 60 years. He knew his father loved him dearly, so he wanted to quickly become stronger. But now did this mean he would be alone from now on? He felt quite happy about this. But things weren't actually that simple, because he received 2 troublemakers here, and poor Finn was caught in the middle, being fought over by the 2 of them. Finally, Iroh had to step in to rescue her. They were actually twin siblings, but they always fought whenever they met. The sister was named Connie, and the brother was named Shauna. Their father had also been chosen to take over an elder position. Iroh felt quite helpless about this. They were neighbors from the next mountain, but the siblings were also chatterboxes. Genelok was worried Iroh would be lonely, so he had brought them over. Though they were quite cute. Yes, cute to death, that kind of cute. This wasn't companionship, it was clearly sending over a pair of Azuras. Before Iroh could finish one sentence, they had already fired off 10. Anyway, we came to play because we were worried Iroh would be lonely, you're so mean. Then Shauna took out the toys he brought along. Seeing this, Iroh was stunned. These weren't toys, they were clearly treasures. He immediately snatched them away, and curiously asked, are these really your toys? It turned out they had taken them from the warehouse. Iroh was very suspicious. Did you really get Uncle Kalos's permission? And their expressions had already betrayed them. You figured it out, haven't you? Iroh looked at the magic sword in his hand. The spatial power on it was several times stronger than his. And there was a magic array on it, seemingly due to problems with the magic circuit. Although Finn also knew spatial magic, she was helpless in this case. Because the formation was several levels higher than her magic. Judging from the level, there seemed to be a large space inside. Hearing this, Iroh burst out laughing. There must be incredible treasures inside. The scene shifts. After an afternoon of repairs, the sword's formation was finally fixed. The siblings were also very excited. As Iroh infused magic power, a transfer space suddenly appeared, and the entrance kept getting bigger. The next instant they all entered the space. Unexpectedly, the magic sword was connected to this cave. But just then, the sword's gem emitted a thunderous sound. Then it shattered. Seeing this, all 3 were dumbfounded. It's over, Shauna burst into tears. Iroh broke my magic sword. Dad will beat me when he finds out. Then Iroh asked Connie if she knew how to use this sword. But she didn't know how to use it either, only knowing it belonged to her great-grandmother. No choice, now that the gem was broken. So he could only look for another way out. A moment later, they quickly reached the end of the cave. But unexpectedly they were blocked by an ice wall. But this was no challenge for him. As Iroh gathered magical power, the cave entrance was blasted open in an instant. But they were stunned by the sight before them. It turned out to be a huge ice mountain. And ice mountains only existed in the easternmost region of the continent. In other words, they had arrived at a place thousands of miles away from dragon territory. Because in this world setting, there were 4 continents aligned side by side. Each continent maintained the same climate year-round. Spring continent had mild weather all year, summer continent had a tropical climate with blazing sun, autumn continent had cool weather, and finally winter continent with its harsh, bitterly cold climate. The dragons lived in the mountains of spring continent. Iroh became more certain of their current location. Well, this is great, we can't go back now. Brave little dragons shouldn't fear difficulties. But Iroh's heart was still in chaos. While the 2 behind him were still chattering away, completely unaware of the severity of the situation. Even flying wouldn't work here, because the fog would block a dragon's vision. Now just breathing was enough to make one gasp for air. Wait, what would happen if Dad found out I was missing? He'd probably search the whole world for me, then turn into a magic dragon. Iroh guessed that would be exactly what Genelok would do given his personality. Just then, he remembered the communication crystal in his pocket. But no matter how much he called out, there was no response. Oh my god, it seems the distance is too far. Then Iroh asked the fairy if they could just cross the Eastern Strait directly. Hearing this, Finn firmly rejected his proposal. Because the waters between these 2 continents had been contaminated by magic. Powerful magical beasts lurked inside. Even adult dragons could only stay away from it. And Iroh was also curious how long it would take to get back across the continent. After Finn's calculations, it would take about 10 years. Iroh thought for a moment, maybe they could make it home before his father returned. Then he explained the situation to the siblings. We must get back within 10 years, but we can't fly. Because if humans discover us we might get captured, so we can only walk for 10 years to get home. Shauna was very confused about this. What will happen if we don't get back in 10 years? Iroh suddenly became serious. If your dads return and don't see you, they'll turn the continent into a sea of fire. Hearing this, the 2 were stunned. That's not such a big deal. Iroh realized these guys were dragons, so he needed to change his approach. If you don't get back in time you'll receive severe punishment. Maybe Uncle Kalos won't buy any snacks or toys for 100 years. Hearing this, the 2 began to panic. Obviously their snacks and toys were more important than the continent's peace. Then Iroh signaled that he would be the team captain from now on. But unexpectedly, the 2 fought over wanting to be captain. Being captain requires sufficient talent. But they rejected his proposal on the grounds that Iroh was younger than them. In reality, Iroh was only 1 month younger than them. Converting to human time, he was just 1 hour later. The 3 dragons started fighting over the captain position. This left the fairy stunned. It seemed 10 years might not be enough. After peaceful discussion, finally, Iroh became captain, Finn became counselor, Connie became vice-captain, and Shauna became vice-vice-captain. The Barebones squad was thus established. Just then, the sky suddenly became cloudy. If he guessed right, it was coming again. But the siblings were starry-eyed and rushed to embrace him. Do these 2 think they're storm dragon kings? Still wanting free electric therapy. No choice but to let them be. Watching the thunder getting louder, the group had already prepared themselves. Just when they thought they could enjoy a numbing massage, unexpectedly, they waited in vain. Theoretically, lightning shouldn't miss its target. Iroh never expected the heavens had gotten smarter. Suddenly he heard rumbling sounds from far away. When he looked up, unexpectedly it was an avalanche caused by the lightning. Seeing this, he could only grab these 2 unfortunate ones and run. But at their current speed they couldn't escape. Damn it, we have to use that. Then Iroh activated spatial isolation magic. But they were still blown away by the snow. Only these 2 fire treasures were acting like nothing happened. The scene shifts. The enthusiastic snowflakes finally calmed down. Then Iroh emerged from the snow. Damn trickster, just a couple of snowflakes, you want to defeat us? I won't let you have your way. While the troublemakers behind him still wanted to do it again. This left Iroh stunned. He immediately gave them a slow-motion left-right hand combo. This little dragon still wants to live a few hundred years. The 2 could only cover their heads pitifully. When Iroh came back to his senses, He found that now even the path was invisible. So the siblings suggested playing here for a while first. Then Shauna dove headfirst into the snow. Seeing this, Connie quickly followed. Iroh shook his head helplessly. How long would it take to get anywhere with these two tagalongs? When he called out to them, there was no response. So he had to go forward to check. Suddenly a feeling of weightlessness came over him. Then he fell straight down the hole. Who knew there would be such a deep hidden passage here? Iroh quickly slid to the end. But unexpectedly what awaited him wasn't ground, but a cliff. This is bad. Just then two little dragons grabbed his feet. Although Iroh safely returned to the ground, he had lost half his soul from fright. With a pop, the siblings turned back into human form. These two really don't know what danger is. When Iroh came back to his senses, he discovered this wasn't a naturally formed cave. He was very puzzled about this, because although it was his first time here, it felt not at all unfamiliar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Looks like they can only find the exit first. Hearing about finding an exit, the siblings rushed to choose directions. But they quickly stopped their argument. Then Connie pointed to the doorway ahead. When Iroh looked in that direction, unexpectedly there was a group of armor-clad soldiers inside. When the soldiers saw the intruders, they suddenly came alive. This is bad. Is it still possible to pray to the heavens now? Seeing this, Shauna was very confused. Are these the humans mentioned in books? Connie was surprised that humans' eyes could emit red light. Just then, Iroh seemed to realize something. Could these be ice warriors? In the story before the original work began, according to legend, the hero King Galen Marcia who saved the world from crisis. His tomb was guarded by ice. Iroh was very excited. Could there really be such a coincidence? If this really is the hero's tomb, wouldn't the things that appeared in the original work be here too? Just then Finn interrupted Iroh. Because these puppets were about to launch an attack on them. Vice Captain and Vice Captain, get ready. Give them a little lesson. The next instant, the two sprang toward the soldiers. Despite their harmless appearance, they were fiercer than anyone when fighting. Shauna unleashed a forward-slash attack, then swung his sword straight at the puppet. How could human weapons compare to dragon treasures? As the sword light flashed past, the puppet shattered. Unexpectedly, the first kill was stolen by her brother. Connie was quite unhappy. Then her eyes turned sharp. A dual sword sliding slash attacked the puppet. Brother is still brother. Iroh hadn't expected these two to perform so well. It seems they weren't as idle as they appeared, because these puppets had strength equivalent to level 2 warriors. Watching the endless stream of puppets, Iroh decided to speed up the cleanup. The next instant, a time magic was released from his hand, and wrapped around all the puppets' giant axes. After being restricted by time magic, the puppets couldn't swing their axes at all. The two knew Iroh had stepped in. Shauna understood Iroh's meaning, and immediately picked up speed. Who knows whose subordinates these were? To be so fierce. In just the blink of an eye, only one puppet remained. This left the puppet dumbfounded. Don't we care about face anymore? As the sword light flashed past, it was time to end this. Looking at the wreckage scattered on the ground. But the two felt they hadn't played enough. Seeing this, Iroh indicated they shouldn't worry, because he would take them to an even better place to play next. Hearing this, the siblings immediately became interested. The scene shifts. Iroh was leisurely enjoying dessert. Their performance had even stunned the fairy. Were these guys really children? While Iroh behind them was responsible for giving warnings. Whether it was sudden incoming cases, or giant axes falling from above, even giant stones rolling down the corridor. Iroh predicted them all precisely. This again refreshed Finn's understanding of dragons. Indeed, one couldn't judge a dragon's strength by age. And she was also very curious about where they were now. When she learned from Iroh's mouth, she was also very shocked. Is it really that hero King Galen Marcia? Iroh gave an affirmative answer. The hero king is buried here. These soldier puppets are proof. Just by clearing this place, they would get unexpected benefits. This was a place set up in the original work to train the protagonist team's abilities early on. In other words, beginner rewards. These mechanisms haven't been destroyed yet, so he was certain the treasures were still here. My vice captains, prepare for the next battle. Soon they arrived at the next checkpoint. The siblings were also very curious about this strange place. Iroh had also guessed this was the final checkpoint. There were 10 Olafs here. If that's the case, then just beyond that door ahead would be the hero's tomb. Before Iroh could speak, the siblings were already prepared for battle. Indeed, they were creatures with dragon bloodline, showing no fear even facing powerful enemies. Dragons as living beings were destined to reach the peak. After getting Iroh's permission, the siblings launched their attack, while Iroh provided support from behind. Under the cooperation of the three, these Olafs had no chance to fight back. The fairy could only smile awkwardly. Anyone watching would think it was just children playing house. After this battle, the two troublemakers finally felt satisfied. And Iroh could hardly wait. Hee, all these treasures are mine. As the great door slowly opened, inside was indeed full of treasures everywhere. Seeing this, Shauna's eyes lit up, because there were even more than in his father's treasury. He immediately dove into the sea of gold coins. While everyone was marveling at getting rich, only Iroh remained unmoved. Because he had only one goal, that was Hero King Galen. The fairy hadn't expected that after such a long time, his appearance would still look like a living person. Meanwhile, Iroh noticed some writing on the ice wall. It was actually ancient text, recording the process of how that era ended. Heaven and earth gave birth to creatures of light and darkness, and called them good and evil. But they were all extremely proud beings. Every time war broke out, they wouldn't care about the tiny creatures below. Finally, under the dragon's leadership, humans pointed their swords at those who considered themselves gods. After experiencing long years, dragons and humans finally achieved victory. But Galen left a warning for the world. When dragons appear in human sight again, that will be when good and evil descend once more. Seeing this, Iroh was stunned. Was there really such a setting in the original work? Unexpectedly, there was a hidden plot. But now these weren't the main point. Then Iroh turned his gaze to the books on the ground. All of Galen's life learnings were recorded in them, a genius who reached the peak with a human body. And in the original story, the protagonist Kendrick became the strongest using these. Now that he had obtained this, he felt it wouldn't matter even if he gave up all the other treasures. But leaving so many gold coins here seemed a waste. Better take some for emergency use. But just then, Iroh sensed movement behind him. When he turned to look, unexpectedly cracks were appearing in Galen's ice block. The next instant, it shattered completely. Seeing this, Iroh felt something was wrong. Had the Hero King awakened? But there was no such plot in the original story. This made the siblings feel scared too. When they learned from Iroh that it was the Hero King, they were startled. Could it be the legendary Galen? Then Iroh signaled for them to run quickly. But before they could react, Galen had already begun swinging his giant sword. But at this moment Iroh's body couldn't move. Is this the power of max level? Damn it. Can only use all strength to fight. The next instant, powerful energy quickly gathered in his hand, while the Hero King's sword also swung down. As Iroh threw out the energy, the attack went straight through Galen's body. Did it work? But Galen's sword energy didn't stop, instead slashing straight toward Iroh. The erupting momentum was enough to destroy heaven and earth. The flat ground instantly became a mess. As the smoke slowly cleared, only a huge chasm remained. This left the fairy feeling completely devastated, because she thought Iroh had been killed. But that wasn't the case. When the attack came, Iroh also thought he was done for. But a moment later, he found he hadn't taken any damage. Seeing this, Finn's worried heart finally settled. Iroh also didn't know what had happened. When everyone came to their senses, they found the entire cave had been split open by Galen's great sword. This left Iroh dumbfounded. Could humans really reach such heights? Meanwhile, he noticed Galen's hands. It seemed he had deliberately changed the attack's direction. Then his sword fell straight down, and signaled for them to leave quickly. As he was dissipating, he told Iroh to beware of the demon race. But Iroh couldn't hear clearly what he was saying. Seeing the cave about to collapse, he had no time to think more. Immediately transformed into dragon form. While the siblings hadn't recovered yet, Iroh signaled for them to transform quickly. Then the three little dragons flew straight for the collapsing cave entrance. But there were still many huge ice blocks blocking the way ahead. At this, Iroh immediately gathered magic and blasted the ice blocks. Just as the entrance was about to be covered, they successfully escaped. What a close call. Finally made it out. Iroh also hadn't expected why the Hero King didn't kill them. If he hadn't changed direction just then, they would probably have died 100 times over. And he seemed to have said something then, but the voice was broken and intermittent. If at least they had preserved their little lives. And he also got Galen's training method. Just then Finn interrupted him. Because those two troublemakers didn't seem to be in good condition. The scene shifts. They returned to the ground. The siblings were still whimpering and crying. Iroh knew they must have been scared. After all, even he was still shaken. Then he took out 2 spirit fruits to comfort them. Because they had all used up their magic power. This was also Iroh's first time using up all his magic power since reincarnating. After eating their fill, it was time for a comfortable sleep. Just as Iroh lay down, the two troublemakers snuggled over, good night. The scene shifts to the next day. The siblings had regained their usual smiles, and happily started having a snowball fight, as if yesterday's events had never happened. Dragon mentality really was something else. Meanwhile, Iroh felt something strange. Places like this usually had monsters roaming about, and in this extreme cold whether they should come out to forage. Now not a single one could be found. Hearing this, the fairy was also stunned, because the master had dragon aura on him. Even powerful monsters wouldn't dare to approach, so that was the reason. Just then Shauna interrupted him, because he saw smoke rising from the mountain opposite. So they decided to go check it out. But when Iroh arrived he was shocked, because this village seemed to have been attacked. When Iroh went to search he couldn't find any survivors. Looking at the fierce beasts on the ground he could guess what had happened. Just as they were preparing to rest, they heard hoofbeats from behind. Seeing this, Iroh quickly pulled the siblings away, then hid in a nearby corner, because he knew sudden plot twists usually came with death flags. Hearing this, the two looked blank. Can flags be eaten? Hope these people pass by quickly. Then a man came down from the carriage. He was the lord of this area. Seeing such a tragic scene, the lord gestured for his lady not to come out. But she still dragged her sick body out. As the lady of this domain, I have a duty to comfort their souls. Seeing the scene before her reminded her of the son they had lost. Then the lady asked if there were any survivors. The commander shook his head helplessly. These fierce beasts somehow went berserk suddenly. None at the scene survived. But just then a strange sound came from the side. This left Iroh stunned, who knew Shauna's hiccup would be so loud. The next instant soldiers surrounded them. Damn it, he knew there would be a twist. Then the commander signaled for those hiding behind to come out. But there was no response. So he swung out a sword beam. The wooden boards behind Iroh shattered, and the fairy was knocked flying as a result. But the commander looked panicked, because he hadn't expected 3 children to be hiding there. Just then Iroh suddenly thought of something, and immediately burst into tears. This left the two stunned. What was going on? Then Iroh signaled with his eyes, and the two immediately understood his meaning, quickly catching on. They immediately started wailing too. Who wouldn't soften their heart seeing this? The Baroness came forward and held them in her arms. Looks like these two had plenty of acting experience. They could win little Oscars. So the Baroness suggested taking them back to the Baron's mansion first. The Baron also agreed with her view. After all, several children couldn't survive on their own. Hearing this, Iroh was stunned. They weren't really going to take them back, were they? The scene shifts. Iroh and the others appeared in the Baron's mansion. He had originally planned to just pretend briefly, but he hadn't expected these two to be such good actors. And the Baron and his wife were also kind-hearted people. Could only take it one step at a time now. Just then, a splash of hot water suddenly hit his face. These two troublemakers could really play anywhere. Really envied how they didn't have to worry about anything. A moment later, everyone had changed into new clothes, and the Baroness had prepared food for them. The two instantly transformed into champion eaters. How could they adapt so quickly? Just like they were in their own home. Meanwhile on the other side, Finn was following Iroh's aura to track him down. Soon she found his location. The scene shifts. When Iroh got up to check, he heard the Baron couple's conversation, and he learned from their talk about how they lost their child. So this is why they're being so kind to us? But their next words left Iroh at a loss. Because the Baroness wanted to treat them as her own children. And the Baron's family was one of the strongest families in the Winter Continent. Becoming their adopted children meant he would instantly become a core figure in this country. The Baron must be struggling with this matter too. It seems the Baroness's obsession with losing her child was too deep. Need to find a way to leave before things get more complicated. Just then, Iroh heard movement outside the window. When he looked, surprisingly it was Finn. Then he explained that he had encountered some small issues on the way. But fortunately there was no real danger. Just as she indicated Iroh could leave. Iroh said he wanted to stay a few more days. Hearing this, the fairy was very puzzled. It turns out, after learning about the Baron couple's situation, Iroh wanted to help them. After all they had been so kind to them, leaving directly would feel wrong. Then the fairy quickly thought of a solution, because dragons value first encounters very much. Since Iroh and the others were their first encounter, why not give them a child? That would solve everything. Iroh scratched his head. Children aren't so easy to produce. Just then he suddenly thought of something. Giving them a child didn't mean it had to be right now. As long as they had a child the matter would be resolved. Then it was time to implement the plan. The scene shifts. The siblings found the Baroness. They were responsible for keeping the lady company and playing. They could surely handle this. Soon Iroh went to the other side. Because the Baron looked more serious. So he would take charge of that. The Baron hadn't expected the child before him to not fear him at all. He felt just like the child he had lost. And he showed a long-absent smile. Seeing this, both servants were very moved, because they hadn't seen the Baron so happy in a long time. The scene shifts. Iroh was organizing today's collected information. This was to understand the Baron and lady's contact times. But Connie was very confused about this. What did today's tasks have to do with having children? Iroh confidently shook his head. You're too young to understand. Because after losing their child, the Baron couple had grown distant. So they needed to bring them closer together, help them walk out of their pain. Then naturally create history. This left the two stunned. Why write history at night? Then Iroh took out a stack of books. 1,000 Magic Potion Crafting Manual. It turns out earlier, when Iroh was researching methods to improve spirit medicine effects, he accidentally discovered it in his father's room, but got scolded for it. Who knew it would come in handy now? A love potion prepared for estranged couples. Just a few drops would make the flames burn bright. Success rate reaching 100%. Then Iroh opened a secret space. Now they could start crafting the potion. The scene shifts. After the potion was ready, Iroh handed the task to Finn. And Iroh reminded her to remember, just sprinkle a few drops on the Baron couple's food. But when the fairy reached the kitchen, she had a problem. Because she couldn't tell which foods were for the Baron couple. Then she had a bright idea. Just sprinkle it on all the food. Whether vegetables and fruits, or grains and flour. She even sprinkled half a bottle in the water source. Hee, mission accomplished. The scene shifts to the next evening. Iroh could hear happy laughter everywhere. To ensure nothing went wrong, he secretly hid behind the room to check the situation. The Baron couple somehow found the weather unusually hot today, even their hearts were racing. After the Baron broke through the barrier, the two returned to their former sweetness. Iroh outside the door was very satisfied. Looks like the plan worked well. Just then the two troublemakers also came over. This gave Iroh a fright. To avoid disturbing the Baron couple, he immediately dragged the siblings away. The scene shifts to the next day. The maids were frantically searching the rooms in panic. When the lady learned the children were missing, she became very nervous, and immediately pushed open the room's door. Just then the maid found a letter left on the table. When the lady opened this letter, we had already left. As the saying goes, there are meetings and partings. We have also set out on our journey. Thank you for your care during this time. May you walk out of the sadness of losing your son. Believe that you too will encounter a new destiny. Please love the new life as you loved us. The Baroness hadn't expected they knew everything, but she was very puzzled about this new life. The scene shifts to several weeks later. The doctor congratulated the Baron couple, because they now had a new child. The Baron was very happy about this. Just then the lady thought of the letter Iroh left. The new life he mentioned was referring to this. Could they have been angels sent by the gods? And to celebrate this matter, the Baron decided to share this joy. Distribute food to all residents in the town. And it was that year. The country's birth rate reached a historic high. All this started because of one careless fairy's mistake. But this also gave this country a great gift. On the other side, the two troublemakers were very happy about everything along the journey. Only Iroh was worried about how to get back faster. At this rate, they probably couldn't make it back in 10 years. If they wanted to speed up, they needed a way to cross continents. Just then, the siblings still wanted to catch some monsters to play with. But Iroh told them not to bother, because they had dragon aura on them. The monsters had already been scared away before they arrived. So the two thought of bandits instead. Hearing this, Iroh was stunned. Even if there were any, they wouldn't jump out, unless they crawled out of the snow. The next instant several thieves indeed jumped out from the snow. Hand over all your valuables. So this is what a flag is? It really works. This left Iroh dumbfounded. No way, they really came just like that? It turns out these bandits had been waiting here for a long time, only jumping out when they heard voices. But they hadn't expected to find children. Just then a subordinate suggested they could kidnap them for ransom. Because their dress indicated they were from wealthy families. The leader thought this made sense. Then ordered his men to capture them. While Iroh was internally rejoicing. This way they could take out their entire base at once. The two missile-like troublemakers also thought this wasn't a bad idea. So Iroh immediately raised his hands in surrender. We'll go with you obediently. This completely threw the bandits off balance. The scene shifts. They were now on the road back to the bandit hideout. But the subordinate felt something was very wrong. Because these children showed no sign of fear. Instead, they seemed to be treating it like a fun outing. A moment later, they finally arrived at the bandits' headquarters. It appeared to be a very peculiar building. The siblings were quite excited about it. Iroh also noticed that the stones of this cave dwelling were quite unusual. Was this really a bandit hideout? Seeing this, the subordinate behind them was very proud. Because this was personally carved by their boss. But at this moment One Eye interrupted him. Because this matter couldn't be leaked to outsiders. Shortly after, they were all locked up in an iron cage. Watching the fat man slowly walk away, Iroh finally dared to let the fairy come out. Then he asked Finn to go check their treasury. Meanwhile, the siblings were feeling quite bored. Iroh indicated they shouldn't worry because something fun was about to happen. Surely the bandits' storehouse must have many treasures. The scene shifts. One Eye was reporting to their leader Pablo about capturing several children. With their worth, they could definitely make a lot of money. Pablo was very pleased. He then went to check on his little moneymakers. He carefully sized up the group. Looking at their clothes and appearance, he was certain these children were from wealthy families. While Iroh, looking at the leader, also felt incredulous. Because judging from his magical flow, he was at least a level 3 warrior. Having such power, it seemed impossible he would choose to be a bandit. And Pablo felt chills all over when Iroh looked at him. It felt like being stared at by a terrifying monster. Then Iroh stepped forward to ask his name. But Pablo's body seemed to move involuntarily as he blurted it out. Could it be that he had caught a cold? At this moment, Iroh's eyes lit up. Hee, looks like he caught a sucker. Even as he left, his body was still trembling. Iroh didn't forget to say goodbye. We'll meet again soon. After Pablo left, the fairy had also returned from scouting. But she sighed helplessly because these bandits were dirt poor. They were lucky not to have starved to death. Hearing this, Iroh was very disappointed. Seems luck wasn't on their side this time. However, people could also be considered a kind of asset. So he decided to go meet these fellows. While Finn would stay here to watch these two troublemakers. Then Iroh slowly placed his hand on the railing. With a gentle pull, the steel bars broke. Here I come, suckers. Meanwhile, back in his room, Pablo was very confused. Why did his whole body feel uncomfortable after seeing that child? It was like facing a monster he couldn't fight against. His body trembled involuntarily. But how could the mighty Pablo be scared by a little kid? It must be because he hadn't slept well. But just then a child's voice suddenly sounded by his ear. It startled Pablo's blink skill right out. This made him very confused. How did you escape? Then Iroh stepped forward and sniffed. This scared him into immediately grabbing his big hammer. Iroh became even more certain of his identity. Pablo also didn't expect the child before him to show no fear. Then he indicated he would give Iroh a chance. Return to the iron cage now. But Iroh refused his suggestion. Come hit me. Pablo's mind went blank and he directly swung the hammer in his hand. He didn't expect to use too much force and couldn't pull it back. Kid, you asked for this. But unexpectedly the hammer didn't harm him at all. He also didn't know why his hand unconsciously stopped. Seeing this, Iroh kept taunting. You're just big-sized, aren't you? Then Pablo swung the iron hammer again. But it always stopped at a hair's breadth away. Refusing to give up, he swung 81 times in succession. Until he completely collapsed. This made Pablo increasingly suspicious of his identity. Who exactly are you? Then Iroh became serious. You should know the answer to that question. But Pablo didn't understand what he was saying. Just then the fairy came crying to Iroh, because she really couldn't handle those two troublemakers. Seeing this, Pablo also felt incredible. He didn't expect to see a fairy here. And Finn also looked at him very puzzled. Because she smelled the scent of yordles on Pablo. But why was he so huge? Then Iroh gave the answer. That's because he's a human yordle hybrid. And as for why he's so big, it must be due to other reasons. This made Pablo very confused about how they could tell. While Iroh asked him to think carefully. Don't think, don't know. One thought, big surprise. It turned out when Pablo was young. His father told him something very serious. If he met someone who struck terror in his heart, no matter his will, he should try to obey them. At the time Pablo was very confused about this. Because although he had yordle blood, it must be very diluted. If he met such people he should just run away. And Pablo was also very curious about their identity. But their names couldn't be carelessly spoken. Because they would hear it very clearly. So your true identity is dragon race. To this, Iroh gave affirmation. Congratulations, you guessed correctly. When Iroh awakened, his old father had asked yordles to help repair the damaged room. And Pablo's aura was the same as theirs, so Iroh guessed he had Yordle blood. At the time, Genelok told him that dragon race could command them unconditionally, because they had the blood contract of the dragon race. A long time ago, due to a mistake by the Yordle race, they almost caused the dragon race's extinction. So they could only keep repaying, while dragon race had blood suppression over Yordles. Then Iroh indicated to Pablo. From now on, you'll be our sucker. Pablo never thought his fate would be so bitter. To run into these bone pickers of all people. Then Iroh learned from him that he was currently 50 years old. Among Yordles he was still a young man. Because their average lifespan was 250 years, but this was nothing to dragon race. So it's not too much for me to call you kid. Now it's time to talk business. So Iroh proposed the condition of working for him for 10 years. This stunned Pablo, then Iroh indicated he shouldn't worry. Maybe it would be faster. As soon as the mission was complete he would be freed immediately. And Pablo was very curious what kind of mission would take 10 years. Why? To save world peace by sending us home, of course. Hearing this, Pablo had a big question mark. What did going home have to do with world peace? Then Iroh told him a story. There was a foolish hero who killed a baby dragon. The dragon father, blinded by hatred, ended up destroying a kingdom. Hearing this, Pablo's heart suddenly shook. He didn't expect this story was true. And now there were two T0 level dads waiting for their children to return. So if they weren't careful it would be the end of the world. But Pablo was confused why such an important mission would find him. Isn't it obvious? Because you look like a sucker. But that couldn't be said carelessly, so Iroh quickly made up a reason. Of course it's because you're the chosen one. Look at your robust body and defined muscles. Your unmatched heroic spirit. One look and I can tell you're a very righteous person. Shouldn't you be chosen by dragon race? Shouldn't such a rare opportunity be given to you? Under Iroh's PUA, Pablo quickly fell for it. This stunned the fairy. This must be CPU among PUA. After Pablo agreed to Iroh's request, several beams of light suddenly appeared on his body. It turned out to be the blood shackles between Yordles and dragon race. Once they agreed to dragon race's matters, they must fulfill them. And Pablo was very puzzled what would happen if he broke the contract. Iroh smiled. Nothing life-threatening. Just that your little brother won't work anymore. Scene changes. The two returned to the iron cage. The siblings didn't expect there would be such a tall Yordle. While Iroh was also very puzzled about this. It turned out when he was young he was like normal people, but once he accidentally ate a strange fruit. After sleeping he became like this. Hearing this, Iroh was suddenly shocked. Then quickly asked what the fruit looked like. After Pablo described it he quickly searched through books, stopping at a bone-shaped fruit, and asked if it was this one. Pablo gave affirmation. But at this moment Iroh's eyes were shining. Because with this he could finally leave the siblings far behind, ha ha ha. Meanwhile Pablo wanted to notify his subordinates. But Iroh stopped him. Because they now had an important mission. That was to eliminate those damn goblins. While the siblings were also very curious. What was the Growford fruit? But Iroh wouldn't tell these two troublemakers. After all, this was his chance to surpass them in height. Scene changes. Several people came to where Pablo got the fruit. But this place seemed to have become the headquarters of the snow goblins. Last time Pablo came there weren't many of them, but unknowingly they reached hundreds. But Iroh didn't care at all, his attention was all on the fruit. But after searching around, he didn't see any trace of the fruit. Then Pablo told him the fruit was in the center of their headquarters. This startled Iroh. They hadn't destroyed the fruit, had they? While Pablo indicated he shouldn't worry, because the tree's location was in an underground cave, surely the stupid goblins wouldn't discover it. Hearing this, Iroh finally relaxed. My vice-captain and vice-vice-captain. Now it's time to prepare for battle. This startled Pablo, because they hadn't made any battle plans. Seeing this, the fairy indicated he shouldn't worry. They were dragons at the top of the food chain. Although they were in child form, their real age was already 200 years old. And other races would feel an inexplicable fear when seeing them. Just watch as the three charged straight towards the goblin headquarters. When the goblins looked back, they didn't expect it was just 3 children, but somehow their aura was so powerful. The goblins were also scared stiff. Now it was too late for them to escape. Shauna killed the guards at the entrance with just one strike. While Connie also didn't want to fall behind. She went straight to kill other goblins. The remaining goblins were scared and fled frantically. This stunned Pablo. He knew dragon race was powerful, but snow goblins weren't pushovers either. Hearing this, the fairy gave him an example. Even if their goblin leader was very powerful, in front of top predators, he would also involuntarily tremble in fear. And Pablo's inner fear was probably for this reason. Just facing them would lose all will and fall into despair. This was a dragon's presence. But this was just the beginning, because they still had second awakening, After going through the second sleep period, just their presence could scare half the goblins to death. Meanwhile, the bandit's one-eyed subordinate rushed over. To avoid exposing identity, the fairy could only hide first. He was attracted by the goblin's screams. When he looked towards the goblin headquarters, he found half was already destroyed. This stunned him. What kind of being would have such destructive power? Pablo pointed in a direction. Unexpectedly, it was the children they captured. And at this moment Iroh and others were having fun. Those goblins were like children playing house to them. While the siblings also brought out their combo skills. Tornado destroys parking lot. The one-eyed subordinate was stunned again. Were these really children? And this guy was also quite clever. Must be our boss's unique insight, so he let them help hunt goblins. This confused Pablo completely. Seeing this, the fairy let Pablo follow his command. Then Pablo suddenly became serious, of course. While the subordinate admired him more, worthy of being our boss. I asked them to eliminate the snow goblins. The subordinate was also curious what monsters they were. This made the fairy very angry. Who are you calling monsters? Unexpectedly Pablo also repeated this. While the subordinate had a big question mark above his head. You just need to remember one thing, that is, don't neglect them. On the other side, Iroh and others had killed their way to the goblin headquarters. The goblin leader directly swung his giant axe. The power produced was enough to instantly kill a level 3 warrior. But at this moment, the goblin was dumbfounded. Because he didn't expect the child in front caught the giant axe with one hand. While Iroh was also not panicked at all. Now it's my turn. Along with his light punch, the goblin opened distance at 10 times light speed, heavily smashing into the wall. Not even 2 seconds after appearing, he was already finished. Iroh thought he could take 2 hits, didn't expect he couldn't even handle one normal attack. Seeing this scene, the two were stunned. Now where would they dare neglect them? After the siblings eliminated the last goblin, this one-sided battle finally ended. Seeing the two panting, Iroh then took out 2 spirit medicines to let them replenish magic. Just then Iroh noticed 2 people on the cliff. What was this guy still dazed up there for? And Pablo also sensed something was wrong. So he proposed going down to check. Hearing this, the subordinate asked if he should go together. But next second he hesitated. Better let boss go alone. Scene changes to Pablo coming before Iroh with a friendly face. While he was still puzzled at this moment. Seeing this, Iroh could only kindly remind him, "Where's my grow-forward fruit?" Then Pablo came to several huge rocks. And the small cave entrance before them was where he discovered the fruit years ago. So Pablo bent down to check. Just watch him hesitate for a moment. Then plunge head first into the rock crevice. This stunned Iroh. In this situation, do you still need to try? Just wait here. While Iroh went forward alone, taking him through the narrow cave entrance. The light ahead caught his attention. Yes, he finally found the location of Growford. And this glowing tree was the fruit tree. Meanwhile, Iroh also saw the fruits on the tree. Then he charged towards the fruits with shining eyes. But next instant he stopped his steps. Because he found the fruits weren't even half the size on the tree. Which meant he came too early now. If eaten now there would be no effect. The potency would also decrease. This made Iroh speechless. Because the fruits would probably take about 200 years to mature. Scene changes to Iroh crawling out of the hole. But he saw Iroh return empty-handed. Then he learned from Iroh that the fruits hadn't matured yet. But what if they were stolen? Hearing this, Iroh instantly turned dark. If anyone has that courage, then let them try. It turned out Iroh left a defensive magic spell there. And also erected a sign with warnings. And next he still had one thing to do. That was to borrow Pablo's subordinates. Because although he set traps inside, he felt they still needed to add some manpower. A moment later, Iroh returned to the stronghold. And the bandits were quickly gathered together. But were these people really bandits? Who knows where these misfits came from? But Iroh had ways to make them change. And at this moment, the bandits didn't know why they were gathered. Only One Eye was panicking inside. He wouldn't want us to kill monsters, right? Then a thunderous voice echoed through the valley. Hello dear Axe Gang folks. I will now announce a major matter. That is, from today the Axe Gang is disbanded. Hearing this, the bandits discussed among themselves below. While One Eye directly ran to ask Pablo, was this really boss's intention? To make them submit. Iroh sent out the friendly, kind, benevolent, and good-intentioned twin combination. Seeing this, One Eye trembled. Before several people could react. A muffled hit struck the back of several people's heads. Just the right force, dazed but not brain damaged. While Iroh cheered and encouraged from behind, must let them realize the difference between people. The bandit leader behind was also helpless. Brothers, the boss is also helpless. Scene changes. Iroh gave affirmation to the two's performance, while all the bandits raised their hands in surrender. Then Iroh indicated to them, "If you can't even beat 2 children, how can you have the face to be bandits? But don't worry, I will properly reform all of you." And in the following days, the Axe Gang's shouts echoed throughout the valley. The fat guy also didn't expect their strength would be so great, making others feel pain. But not enough to make them pass out, couldn't even try to slack off. While One Eye told him to give up resistance. Now he was already enlightened. Being able to feel the beauty of this world was already not bad. Hearing this, the fat guy was in tears. He didn't understand why his body was covered in wounds every day, but by the next day he was like nothing happened. While Iroh laughed ha 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 behind them. "That was of course because of my high-grade potion. Just sleep and you'll recover to full condition." Additionally, during each training, Iroh would use spirit holy magic to temper their will, so even if they were very tired they wouldn't slack off. Besides this, there were also martial arts secrets Iroh took from his father's room. Although they were just basic skills, those all came from Dragon Race's library. Although it was a bit wasteful to teach these guys, this was the only way to make them stronger in a short time. Could only let them benefit. Meanwhile, Iroh asked Pablo how things were going. Hearing this, Pablo gave affirmation everything was ready. Then Iroh let them prepare, because next there would be ultimate training. How does a lion throw cubs off cliffs to make them stronger? This made Pablo suddenly feel chills down his spine, because he had a bad premonition. Scene changes. Just watch all the bandits carrying big bundles on their backs. And they were all very curious what was inside. Just then a shout interrupted everyone. Then a strange wooden cart sped down from the mountain. When everyone saw clearly, it turned out to be a catapult. Pablo had put in great effort to make it. Seeing this, One Eye felt very confused. Were they going to attack a city? Before he could react, Iroh went straight to the point. "Next, let's invite our #1 main force to demonstrate for everyone." Just watch Connie scampering towards the catapult direction. Then jumped onto the stone-throwing position in one go. This startled the bandits. "He wouldn't throw us out, right?" Meanwhile, Connie raised his hand indicating ready. Along with Iroh's command, she shot straight towards the cliff like a cannonball. And at this moment Connie just felt it was very fun. But the Axe Gang behind were like the third emoji on your phone. This stunned them. Just as Connie was falling off the cliff, she opened the backpack behind her. Everyone was shocked by their operation again. Could it be played like this? Then Iroh indicated to them. Everyone saw clearly, right? Just need to fly out like a stone, then open the backpack. But the bandits were silent. Seeing this, Iroh called teaching assistant #2 Shauna to demonstrate again. And Shauna was just like Connie. Perfectly demonstrated how to use the parachute. Iroh was very satisfied with this. After the Axe Gang went through this training, they could quickly mobilize in terms of action. Then Iroh indicated to them, "Surely you've seen clearly, now just need to go bang." While the Axe Gang members were trembling, the fat guy was more scared and turned to run away, but how could they escape from Dragon Race's hands? Along with Iroh gently snapping his fingers, a huge barrier suddenly appeared. Before the fat guy could react, he went straight for the headbutt. Iroh indicated they shouldn't be nervous, it was just a small training. But the bandits obviously didn't believe what he said. After all, those 2 children weren't ordinary people. Seeing this, Iroh looked towards Pablo behind him. "If a normal person demonstrates for you, will you accept?" Hearing this, Pablo quickly waved in refusal. "Big brother, please no." Then Iroh indicated to the Axe Gang behind to come help. Next instant, a crowd of subordinates swarmed over. It turned out they were already very unhappy with their boss. After all, during the devil training, only he was leisurely behind. They had agreed to share hardships. Boss wouldn't go back on his word, right? And so Pablo was mounted on the catapult by his subordinates. With their command, Pablo went up to the sky. Seeing this, Iroh was also very satisfied, because although Pablo was bigger, he still completed it quite excellently. Then Iroh turned his gaze towards everyone. "Now it's your turn." While the bandits were tearful, because they had no more excuses. What followed were screams echoing through the valley. Scene changes to a month later. At this moment, Iroh was very worried. If powerful enemies broke in, they would probably loot all the fruits. So they must learn some advanced skills. But Iroh's current advanced skills were only from last time. And even he couldn't comprehend the contents of this book, let alone those bandits. Just as Iroh was troubled where to find skill books, the siblings curiously looked at Iroh. Then they also noticed the books on Iroh's desk. And for them, memorizing books was a very interesting game, because they often memorized books in their father's study. Hearing this, Iroh suddenly had an idea. Then Connie confidently indicated she could memorize 5 books, while Shauna beside wasn't happy. "Let's see you sweat. Sister, I can memorize 10 books. Surely these 2 must have high-level secret techniques. Next would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Then Iroh let the 2 calm down. Since you want to know who can memorize more, just need a simple competition. And the siblings also thought this was a good idea. When the 2 sat down, they started the invincible wind and fire wheels. Only Iroh behind was laughing ha ha ha. In no time, a voice of completion came. Just watch the 2 holding a thick stack of papers. This stunned Iroh. These 2 wouldn't have written carelessly just to complete the competition, right? Who could write so fast? And next instant he suddenly froze. Then Iroh read through all the content. Unexpectedly, the 2 wrote 11 books. And they were all complete books. While the siblings beside only cared who won. Before Iroh could announce, the 2 were already fighting. For this he could only declare a tie. While neither would give in to the other. A tie wasn't fun. Meanwhile, the fairy also completed the task Iroh assigned. Now they had found advanced books. After completing the final step, they could leave. Scene changes to several days later. At this moment, the Axe Gang was no longer the past Axe Gang. After more than a month of training, they had completed transformation and had strength comparable to special forces. While Iroh was very satisfied with this. Now this looked more like the Axe Gang. Then Iroh congratulated everyone. Because each of them persevered. And now Iroh would tell them why they trained. That was because it was God's will. Next instant, a dazzling light burst out on the mountaintop. This startled several people. Just watch the subordinate frantically pointing ahead. A person like a deity appeared in the sky above. This stunned several people. Who was this guy? Was it really a deity? Were we really chosen by Kalos? Legend has it that long ago, Kalos was the god of war built from demon race corpses. At this moment, the bandits' hearts began to waver. Because they didn't expect to one day be chosen by deities. Meanwhile, on the other side, Iroh was busy inside the illusion. After all, using spatial refraction to make such a large illusion was somewhat strained. Just then cracks suddenly appeared behind Iroh. But fortunately, the siblings were there to help. Along with them, releasing lightning magic. The broken illusion was quickly repaired. Iroh's suspended heart also finally settled down. And now he needed to expand the space. Let the illusion synchronize with himself. You are all chosen by the deities, preparing for the disaster that will befall this land. You will become the light that illuminates the coming darkness. Seeing things were almost complete, now just needed to pretend to bestow blessings to complete it. Just watch the deity slowly raise his palm. Then a series of runes flashed on the bandits' bodies. The blessed bandits let out worshipful cheers. Then Iroh let the fairy start the next step of the plan. Receiving the command, the fairy quickly flew towards a small sapling. Just watch Finn pour all the growth potion on the sapling's roots. After absorbing the potion, next instant the sapling quickly grew. In just a moment it grew into a towering tree. This stunned the bandits. And this was exactly a marker Iroh set for himself, to prevent not finding the place after several hundred years. Then the deity pointed towards the mountainside. This made the bandits feel very confused. At this time Iroh indicated Pablo to quickly act. Just watch Pablo quickly swing the hammer in his hand, heavily striking the rock. In the blink of an eye, the mountain split open. Then a cave suddenly appeared before the bandits. And this was also a test Iroh gave them. Those who passed the test could receive blessings. Inside the cave were the advanced skill books Iroh left for them. But there were also traps designed by the siblings. So obtaining them wouldn't be easy. After instructing the final matters, the deity dispersed before everyone. And at this moment all the bandits believed they were chosen by the gods. Otherwise the previous phenomena couldn't be explained. Looking at the bandits cheering excitedly, Iroh was very satisfied with this. Had to praise that I really am a genius. Next they could leave here at ease. This stunned Pablo. He knew the brothers had already taken these things seriously. Those guys would voluntarily risk their lives to guard the ancient city. Didn't expect at such young age they became others' workers. But when he came to his senses, seems he wasn't any better off. Meanwhile Iroh indicated to Pablo time was up. And next they would begin a new journey. Scene changes to Silver Flower City. At this moment Genelok was looking at the continent where Dragon Race was. Wonder if Iroh had been eating meals on time. While he was regretting leaving Iroh alone at home. And old father also didn't know where he ran off to. If he could go back to take a look, he would feel much more at ease. After thinking for a moment, Genelok made a bold decision. These mountains of official documents couldn't be finished quickly anyway, so sneaking back for 2 days probably no one would notice, right? Just as he was preparing to leave, a voice interrupted him. Just watch a man slowly speak. Wouldn't be planning to abandon sacred duties and escape, right? Although Genelok felt a bit guilty, he still put on a calm face and answered, haha, how could that be? This person was Connie and Shauna's father Kalos. And although he didn't expose Genelok, Kalos could tell with one look. Seeing this, Genelok urged him to leave here. Are your matters finished? But obviously Kalos didn't want to leave here, just watch him humming tunes looking around everywhere. Just then, he noticed the crystal ball on the desk. Don't worry, I just came to check on you in case you were bored. Then he injected a trace of magic power into the crystal. Then Iroh's figure appeared in the ball. Are you thinking about Iroh again? Although Genelok didn't say it, his expression already wrote it all over. So you're planning to skip work to go see Iroh, right? Genelok still wanted to explain, but his acting skills were too poor. At this time Kalos reminded him, you should know during the inheritance process unauthorized leaving is forbidden. If discovered there would be severe punishment. And Genelok also knew, but if discovered there was nothing he could do. Kalos also felt curious. Are you that worried about children? Genelok looked at him puzzled. Aren't you worried? Kalos nodded. I'm not worried at all. Because he told Connie and Shauna, if feeling bored go find Iroh to play. Iroh wasn't ordinary smart, honestly, he would take care of the siblings better than him. This stunned Genelok. Then Kalos indicated he shouldn't worry too much. Iroh wasn't ordinary people. He not only naturally possessed 4 attributes, from his thinking he wasn't inferior to adult dragons. You're the dragon to raise children easily in the world, although that's what was said, but Genelok was still worried. Maybe Iroh is enjoying freedom without you. Then Kalos let him not worry, the siblings would bully him, because he instructed in advance to listen to Iroh. And Genelok also knew the siblings' personalities. Meanwhile Kalos also knew the troublemakers at home would definitely cause trouble, so they would also find Iroh to resolve it. Thinking of this, Kalos felt much more relaxed, had to praise I am a genius, but the child-doting maniac beside wasn't happy. Let my kid take care of your kids. No middleman making a profit, huh? Scene changes to another side. At this moment Iroh was extremely troubled, because the siblings had been calling for a day to get him to play with them. What's so good about these two staying together every day? Before Iroh could finish speaking, the two had already hugged him. What crime did I commit in my past life? Meanwhile, a voice interrupted several people. It turned out to be Pablo. He had prepared a carriage for convenient travel. While Iroh was very satisfied with this. Then he asked where the nearest port was. Then learned it was Lupu port, because that was closest to the autumn continent. And at this moment Iroh was very puzzled how long would it take to reach. After Pablo's calculation fastest would take half a year, but because winter continent had blizzards, perhaps actions would be hindered, so estimated it would take about a year to reach the port. Didn't expect the estimated time would be even longer than Iroh thought, and carriages moved very slowly in snow. If they could find a faster means of transportation, perhaps they could quickly pass through the winter continent. Just then, Pablo raised a question that had been bothering him. Couldn't they contact other dragons? If there were any familiar dragons on this continent, perhaps they could help you get home faster. This sparked a realization in Iroh. Why hadn't he thought of that? There must be dragons living in hiding on the winter continent. But the current problem was that he didn't know any dragons here. And he didn't know where to find them. He immediately asked the elf about it. But she didn't know any dragons here either. And the two troublemakers were also very certain they didn't know any. With help from other dragons, they could greatly reduce their journey home. Perhaps searching for dragons would be a good plan. Then Iroh asked Pablo if he had heard any legends about dragons. Although he knew some, the information wasn't complete, so they could go to human towns to gather information. Iroh didn't hesitate. They then set off toward the western town. As the sky gradually darkened, Pablo indicated that they were still quite far from the human town, so they would have to make camp for now. The scene shifts. After a day of traveling, Pablo decided to fill their stomachs first. In the cold snowy wilderness, snow rabbits were one of the most common food sources. Smelling the aroma coming from the rabbits, the siblings were already drooling. Pablo gestured to them not to rush, saying it would be ready soon. Then he took out a bottle of special seasoning and sprinkled another layer on top. Pablo's secret braised snow rabbit was ready. Eating hot meat in the cold snow was the happiest thing. Connie and Shauna were already wolfing it down. While Iroh only tried one bite, he immediately praised Pablo's cooking skills. I didn't expect you to be such a good cook. Then he changed the subject and asked about the dragon stories Pablo knew. This was something he had heard from a hunter. 20 years ago, there was a dragon-like monster in his village. But Iroh immediately interrupted him. What do you mean by calling dragons monsters? Dragons cannot tolerate being called monsters. Startled, Pablo quickly corrected himself, saying there was a noble dragon gentleman in his village 20 years ago. Legend had it that it was enormous, as tall as several houses, and all the villagers hid trembling in their homes. But Iroh felt this information wasn't very reliable since several decades had passed. Pablo had heard more. The local lord had sent a large military force. But none returned, so they must have been completely wiped out. After that, no one dared approach that mountain again. Iroh deduced that if it really was a dragon, there must be eyewitnesses. But if it wasn't, it must be something quite interesting. Just then, Iroh suddenly sensed movement behind them. It seemed like something was approaching. Hearing this, Pablo immediately pulled out his hammer. "Leave this to me." Then Pablo shouted for whoever was hiding to come out. At the same time, a voice came, "You don't need to be so alert." Then a man wearing a cloak walked out. The man's name was Jacob Truegen, and he happened to be passing by. Hearing this, Iroh was startled, as the surname Truegen seemed familiar. When Jacob asked if he could share their fire to warm up, Pablo immediately refused him. He had also noticed the twins nearby. With children present, letting a stranger join them wouldn't be wise. So he turned to leave. At this moment, Iroh was still muttering the name Truegen. Just then he suddenly thought of something. He immediately asked Pablo to call him back. If this really was the Truegen Iroh was thinking of, he definitely needed to find out more. Because Rabina, one of the heroes who defeated Genelok, had the surname Truegen. With Pablo's persuasion, he agreed to stay. Seeing Iroh staring at him, he was puzzled, wondering if there was something on his face. Iroh asked him directly if he was exploring alone, suggesting he must be quite powerful. Jacob laughed, saying, "I am alone, but not entirely alone." This left the three dragons completely confused. Seeing their puzzled expressions, Jacob gently blew his whistle. Seeing this, Iroh was startled. It was spirit magic, though weak, it definitely contained spiritual magical power. At the same time, a huge sound came from the sky. Then a six-winged blood eagle appeared before them. It landed majestically on the snow, letting out a sharp cry toward everyone. The unsuspecting Pablo thought it was some fierce beast and immediately pulled out his huge hammer. But Jacob quickly stopped him. He indicated there was no need to be nervous, as this was his summoned six-winged blood eagle. Its name was Minky. This made Pablo very curious, as this species was famously fierce. It turned out this snow eagle was raised by him since it was small, so it listened to him very well. Hearing this, Pablo realized, "You're a beast tamer, aren't you?" Jacob laughed awkwardly, humbly saying he wasn't very skilled yet. Meanwhile, Iroh was thinking, a beast tamer with a surname Truegen. Could this guy be Rabina's ancestor? Then Iroh stepped forward to ask if he was married. Jacob shook his head. "Do you have any other siblings?" He then learned that he was an only child, and Truegen was a surname only he and his father had. Hearing this, Iroh's eyes lit up. He must be Rabina's ancestor. While Jacob found Iroh's questions very strange. Little did he know Iroh was already plotting in his mind. Although killing him directly wouldn't be good, perhaps he could ensure he remained alone and never saw his descendants. This gave Jacob a chill down his spine. Then Pablo invited him to rest nearby. Just then there was a sound from Minky. When Jacob looked up, he found the twins trying to approach Minky. Seeing this, Jacob broke out in a cold sweat, as this was an extremely dangerous behavior. But things weren't as he imagined. Minky was very gentle around the two. This left him stunned. This was supposed to be the strongest raptor on Earth. Then Iroh grabbed the two down, saying these were someone else's things. Meanwhile, Minky saw Iroh and was immediately startled. Because in his eyes, Iroh was like a demon from hell. He was so scared he jumped up immediately. But Jacob mistakenly thought he had lost control and hurried forward to stop him. But the next moment, he was lying on the ground, acting coquettishly in front of Iroh. This left him dumbfounded. After all, he had never acted this way since he was small. Then he even let the siblings play happily on top. Pablo indicated to him not to feel strange. What kind of beings were these guys really? The scene shifts. At this moment, they were once again packing their belongings to set out on their journey. Jacob expressed his great gratitude, not expecting to be invited to travel together. Pablo could only laugh awkwardly, as this was a task assigned by Iroh. Under Iroh's urging, they headed to their next destination, while Minky followed behind them. Along the way, Iroh was thinking about how to deal with the Jacob problem. After all, leaving him alone would still pose a threat to Genelok in the future. So he decided to gather more information first. Then Iroh asked Jacob where he was heading next. He told Iroh without hesitation. Hearing this, Iroh was puzzled. What secrets did Mount Kashta hold? Jacob smiled confidently, because that mountain might help realize his dream. Iroh seemed to have already guessed the answer. Every juvenile would have a special dream. Jacob's was to become a master dragon tamer. Hearing this, Pablo immediately felt a chill down his spine. Kid, you're asking for death. Dragons, being the continent's strongest creatures, if one could tame them, they would surely become more powerful. Lost in his fantasy, Jacob didn't notice Iroh's killing intent at all. Then Pablo reminded him that staying alive was more important. Jacob just grinned foolishly. Iroh was considering whether to eliminate him directly. But after thinking, he decided to wait. Judging from Jacob's experience, it probably wasn't a dragon on Mount Kashta. Then there was only one explanation left. The Thunder Attribute White Tiger. If he really tamed the Thunder Tiger on Mount Kashta, it would later become the true Gen family heirloom. That is, the Raging Thunder Tiger that Rabina used. But Iroh wouldn't let things go just like that, so he decided to strike first. Then Iroh also chimed in that it was truly a remarkable dream. Hope you can achieve it. Pablo could only shake his head helplessly. Of all the ways to die, you chose this one. Jacob's group rested at the foot of the mountain for one night. Looking at the beautiful scenery before him, he couldn't help but sigh. Meanwhile, a voice interrupted him. Iroh behind him also agreed with his view, as the scenery here was indeed nice. But what Iroh found strange was that he couldn't see the twins. Come to think of it, Jacob also found it strange. They shouldn't be this quiet. Then Iroh asked Pablo again. Pablo also had a big question mark. Weren't they sleeping in the carriage with you? At this moment, Iroh knew these two must have gone out to cause trouble. Just as Iroh was looking around, Finn called him. The good news was the twins had been found. The bad news was they brought something back with them. A moment later, a familiar voice came. The two were seen dragging a thunder tiger toward everyone, while still arguing about whether they caught a kitten or a puppy. Iroh and Jacob were dumbfounded. This wasn't a kitten at all, but clearly a thunder tiger cub. Then the little thunder tiger was thrown to the ground by the two, and they begged Iroh to let them keep it as a pet. Iroh was curious where they caught it. Connie pointed to the top of Mount Kashta. They had found it while playing there this morning. The two chattered endlessly, giving Iroh a headache. These two really never avoided trouble. This was also Jacob's first time seeing a live thunder tiger cub. Just as he went forward to look, Connie and Shauna directly blocked him, saying, "Don't touch my Enel." Iroh was dumbfounded again. He didn't expect these two had even thought of a name. Meanwhile, Iroh noticed the little tiger's movement. It secretly opened one eye to peek at everyone. It was caught red-handed by Iroh. This scared it into trembling. But it quickly closed its eyes again, pretending to be unconscious, refusing to respond no matter how Iroh called. When Iroh leaned to its ear and asked, "Would you prefer to be braised or steamed?" The little thunder tiger jumped up in fright and showed its sharp claws. But Iroh wasn't worried at all, saying, "Little thunder tiger, you dare to show off in front of me?" He gave it a quick flick. The little thunder tiger could only throw a tantrum on the ground, knowing it couldn't beat these guys. Jacob turned into the first emoji in your phone. Pablo could only awkwardly suggest that kids these days were just naturally strong. "Big brother, do you even believe what you're saying?" Seeing the little thunder tiger rolling on the ground, the twins went forward to comfort it. But at this moment, Iroh felt very strange. Normally, thunder tigers wouldn't easily leave their cubs. Just then, a terrifying sound approached, and its movement seemed to be heading toward their position. The monster's claws easily crushed the wood. It turned out to be a land dragon. Jacob was startled. But Iroh gestured him to stay quiet, saying that making noise would attract its attention. Then Iroh quickly released a spatial magic spell. In an instant, he hid everyone. After the spell was cast, there was no trace of them in the snow. Jacob hadn't expected him to cast a spatial magic spell so quickly. Was this guy really a child? Meanwhile, the land dragon had also come to their location and stopped, because it sensed there had been movement here. Jacob didn't know if he was lucky or unlucky to encounter both a thunder tiger and a rare land dragon on the same day. Just then he suddenly realized something. So the thing on Mount Kashta wasn't the legendary dragon, but a land dragon. This left him somewhat disappointed. Coming back to his senses, Jacob turned his attention to Iroh. Because he discovered Iroh's reaction speed was extremely fast, and he could quickly cast magic. Could he really be a genius? Even geniuses were nothing before him. But they needed to deal with the current crisis first, because the land dragon seemed to have gone berserk. So he immediately asked Finn. But she had no solution either, because although land dragons weren't pure-blooded dragons, they still had some dragon bloodline. So they were much stronger than ordinary land creatures. It would take at least 3 to 4 level 1 masters to deal with a land dragon. Looking at the dragon so close, Iroh knew they would all be wiped out if this continued. But why did a land dragon suddenly appear here? He was very puzzled. Then Iroh noticed the trembling little thunder tiger on the ground. It probably followed its trail here. Meanwhile, after observing for a while, the land dragon found nothing unusual. Then it turned to leave. Seeing this, Iroh also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it wasn't very patient, otherwise they would have been in trouble. But just then the sky suddenly became overcast with dark clouds. Iroh had a bad feeling. No way, was the sky trying to kill him? The next instant, a lightning bolt struck directly at their location. And one bolt happened to hit the land dragon. Damn it. Iroh quickly raised the lightning element stone. Without it, he would probably have become Braised Dragon. Just when Iroh thought he could relax, a pair of eyes was now staring intently at him. The air suddenly froze, making the atmosphere somewhat awkward. Everyone immediately took off without a word. The siblings burst into tears, asking why it was chasing them. Running behind them, Jacob was very puzzled. Pablo would be fine. But why could three little kids run so fast? He knew they definitely weren't ordinary people. Meanwhile, the land dragon had caught up. The land dragon opened its bloody maw at him. At this critical moment, Jacob blew his whistle. The land dragon also sensed danger, but it was too late to dodge. The next instant, Minky's claws struck toward it, landing a heavy blow to its head, causing the land dragon to pause. This gave Iroh's group a chance to escape. Finn immediately told Iroh to run toward the forest, because that would interfere with the land dragon's speed. So everyone immediately ran in the opposite direction toward the forest, instantly putting distance between them and the land dragon. Looking at the snow eagle continuously circling in the sky, this made the land dragon very angry. Then it suddenly launched a sonic attack at Minky. Minky hadn't expected the land dragon to attack from range, and dizziness made it lose consciousness. Then it plummeted straight toward the ground. Seeing this, Jacob immediately became anxious. He then ran back. This put Iroh in a dilemma. If they ran into the forest now, they could definitely escape the land dragon's pursuit. After struggling internally, Iroh still chose to turn back. Damn it, if you survive this time, I'll definitely give you a beating. The three were suddenly stunned, although they didn't know why Iroh turned back. They still resolutely followed. While the little thunder tiger was also deep in thought, now it could escape from them just by running away. Although it was scared, it still followed. Meanwhile, Jacob came to Minky. But its condition didn't look good. The land dragon didn't give it time to react, biting down on its wing immediately. You damn little lizard. The next instant, a magic attack shot straight at the land dragon. Although it couldn't cause damage, the land dragon felt insulted. How dare a tiny human attack me? It swung its tail and swept the dragon's tail towards Jacob. The land dragon's speed left Jacob no time to dodge. Iroh also arrived just in time, then pulled him back in one motion. Jacob narrowly escaped being hit. At this point, Iroh no longer conserved his strength. A magic spell was quickly released. To increase the attack's damage, Iroh specially added rotation magic. Along with Iroh's throw, the attack shot straight at the land dragon's head. But the next instant, the land dragon devoured Iroh's magic. Seeing this, Iroh felt things were bad. He hadn't expected the land dragon to be so powerful, even able to bite through spatial magic. But fortunately, he had more than one attribute. Then Iroh released another mental magic spell. Just when Iroh thought he could control it, unexpectedly the land dragon broke free from the restraints in one motion. Damn it, even mental magic couldn't restrain it. The elf reminded Iroh that although land dragons couldn't use magic skills, their fighting spirit was extremely strong and they had high magic resistance. Was there really no way? The next instant, the land dragon's abyssal maw opened toward him. At this moment the siblings had also caught up. The two were seen wielding swords and launching a frenzied assault on the land dragon. But they hadn't expected the land dragon's shell to be so hard. It was like striking an incredibly hard rock. Looking at the land dragon's reaction, it seemed the previous attacks still had some effect. Then Iroh gestured for the two to continue attacking the land dragon's head, because that was probably the land dragon's weakness. Hearing this, the siblings charged at the land dragon again. After being attacked, that thing reacted exactly as Iroh had predicted. Although its magic resistance was extremely high, it couldn't protect its internal organs. While the siblings drew the land dragon's aggro, Iroh provided ranged support from the side. And Iroh quickly seized the opportunity. He fired a barrage of magic missiles right into its mouth. Although the land dragon's scales were hard, at this point it had to admit defeat. I have to praise myself for being a genius. But the siblings were in bad shape. Their hands couldn't feel anything now. While the two onlookers were dumbfounded. Children fighting a land dragon, were their eyes deceiving them? Pablo could only awkwardly respond that his nieces and nephews were quite strong. Then he indicated to Jacob not to think too much about it, as it wouldn't do him any good. Meanwhile, Iroh signaled the siblings to hold on a bit longer. They needed to completely finish off the land dragon. But just then, another roar suddenly came from behind. They hadn't expected another land dragon. This was something Iroh hadn't anticipated. They hadn't even dealt with the current one. Things seemed to be getting more and more difficult. Connie also didn't know what to do, as they could barely handle one land dragon. while Iroh had already prepared for the worst in his mind. If necessary, he would reveal his identity and fly away with Jacob and Pablo. Just as Iroh was signaling the siblings to get ready, movement came from behind again. It was two adult Thunder Tigers arriving. Judging from the little Thunder Tiger's reaction, they should be its parents. The appearance of the Thunder Tigers caught the land dragon by surprise. They immediately started biting and tearing at the land dragon. Iroh knew it must be because the little Thunder Tiger was hurt that its parents couldn't sit still. Now the balance of victory had tipped in their favor. Before the land dragon fully recovered, Iroh decisively chose to strike. Then a chain firmly bound it. Without the other land dragon's help, 3 people dealing with one land dragon was more than enough. Then the 3 charged at the land dragon with their weapons. Meanwhile, Iroh also signaled Pablo to help. Because their previous consumption was too great, their combat power had clearly decreased significantly. Jacob in the distance could only watch dumbly. After all, he couldn't help in this kind of battle. Not being a burden was the best he could do. After continuous output from everyone, the green land dragon finally fell. Iroh's group was also exhausted. If another land dragon came, they would have to transform into dragon form. The battle on the other side was also very intense. Hearing the commotion nearby, the distant Thunder Tiger cub was very worried. At this moment, the Thunder Tiger's battle had entered a white-hot stage. The Thunder Tiger father was seen pouncing toward the land dragon, using sharp fangs to continuously tear at it. But the land dragon wasn't helpless, immediately biting back at the Thunder Tiger. The land dragon had always held a huge advantage in size. Soon it threw the Thunder Tiger flying. At this point, the Thunder Tiger father clearly could barely stand. The land dragon was also very cunning, giving the Thunder Tiger no chance to react, immediately releasing a sonic attack, making the Thunder Tiger's already injured body suffer another heavy blow. Meanwhile, the land dragon swung its tail violently. This strike would surely kill the Thunder Tiger father instantly. Just then the Thunder Tiger mother jumped up without hesitation, helping him block this fatal blow. The Thunder Tiger mother was also sent flying as a result, then crashed heavily into a tree. Seeing his wife fall, the Thunder Tiger burned his life force core, entering a berserk state, continuously tearing at the land dragon. With the power of lightning enhancement, the Thunder Tiger pierced through the land dragon's hard scales. Strong electric currents made it instantly lose fighting ability. This time the Thunder Tiger father was prepared to perish together with the land dragon. Along with the land dragon's screams echoing through the entire forest, the battle between Thunder Tiger and land dragon came to an end. Just as Iroh's group was resting, a Thunder Tiger was walking toward them. Seeing its father, the little Thunder Tiger immediately pounced over. After confirming his child wasn't hurt, he also felt relieved. Then the Thunder Tiger's gaze fell on Iroh. But the Thunder Tiger showed no particular reaction. It seemed to have recognized Iroh's identity. Then leaving the little Thunder Tiger, it turned and left this place. This left the little Thunder Tiger very confused, and it immediately followed, but was stopped by Iroh. Iroh and the Thunder Tiger made eye contact, and he also understood the father Thunder Tiger's intention. The Thunder Tiger showed one last smile in gratitude, then leaped toward the deep forest. The unknowing little Thunder Tiger thought its father didn't want it. Finn knew this was the Thunder Tiger's final farewell to its child, as that Thunder Tiger had already prepared to die. The next instant the forest was lit up by a golden light. And that must have been the Thunder Tiger's final energy. Then Iroh asked Finn to stay and watch the twins. He would go up to check what happened. Hearing this, Finn was very worried, because going up the mountain rashly now would be dangerous. Seeing Iroh's determined attitude, she didn't stop him anymore. Just then the little Thunder Tiger made a whimpering sound, looking pitifully at Iroh, begging to go along. And Iroh agreed to its request, then quickly ran toward the previous direction. At this moment Iroh had a bad feeling in his heart. When he arrived at the scene, he was also shocked speechless by the sight before him. A land dragon and 2 Thunder Tigers lay on the ground. The scene looked very tragic. These must have all been done by the little Thunder Tiger's parents. While the little Thunder Tiger seemed at a loss, it went forward and kept nudging their bodies with its little head, trying to wake them up. Iroh's heart ached seeing this scene, because it was just like his previous life when he lost his parents. Then he went forward to comfort the little Thunder Tiger. After the Thunder Tiger couple died, Iroh buried them on the snowy mountain. And he also understood that Thunder Tigers and land dragons were both bugs on the mountain. Even without their intervention, one side would inevitably fall in the end. After all, one mountain cannot contain 2 tigers. According to the story's plot progression, after the Thunder Tigers and land dragon died, Jacob accidentally found the little Thunder Tiger, finally leading to forming a contract with the Thunder Tiger. But Iroh definitely wouldn't let things develop according to the original plot. If he could tame the Thunder Tiger ahead of time now, then it wouldn't pose a threat to him in the future. Then Iroh cast a spell, and a red energy surrounded the little Thunder Tiger. This left it very puzzled. When the little Thunder Tiger looked back, it saw Iroh emanating an extremely terrifying pressure. The little Thunder Tiger was scared and trembled, crouching on the ground. But Iroh indicated it didn't need to be nervous. If you trust me, I'll take you in. Looking at Iroh's sincere eyes, the Thunder Tiger also extended its little paw. Iroh hadn't expected to succeed so quickly. From now on the Thunder Tiger would be his companion. Just then a voice interrupted him. Jacob watched all this in disbelief. This time he was more certain of his judgment. Although the Thunder Tiger was still young, it wasn't something that could be easily tamed, so your identity could only be one thing. Hearing this, Iroh was startled. Had he seen through his true identity? You must be the legendary High Elf, guardian of the forest. This left Iroh dumbfounded. What was he talking about? He couldn't understand at all. It seemed he had misunderstood. If there was no need to correct this misunderstanding, letting him continue like this, wouldn't that make his identity even safer? Then Iroh put on a noble act. That's right, I am the guardian of the forest, the elven god. Pablo on the side was very puzzled. What was this guy up to now? Connie and Shauna also had big question marks. Why was Iroh speaking in an elven tone? Then Jacob turned his gaze to the siblings. And the elf also made up an identity for them. They were his elven warriors. But the siblings weren't satisfied, because elves had very low status in dragons' eyes, so naturally they weren't happy to be compared to them. Meanwhile Iroh changed the subject. Can you help me take care of this little Thunder Tiger? Hearing this, Jacob's heart suddenly shook. The siblings also disagreed with Iroh's request, but Iroh must have his own intentions. Just then he signaled Pablo with his eyes. And he immediately understood, kicking the two troublemakers aside with one motion. Then Iroh asked Jacob again if he was willing. But Jacob was very confused. Since this Thunder Tiger was tamed by him, why not raise it himself? And Iroh also briefly explained the situation to him. They had a very difficult journey ahead, and the Thunder Tiger was still young, even its survival was uncertain. Jacob's expression immediately became serious. After all, if even an elf thought it was dangerous, it was beyond what ordinary people could imagine. And entrusting the Thunder Tiger to him was also very reassuring, because Iroh knew Jacob would definitely take good care of it. Then Jacob no longer refused, saying he would care for it like his own child. Then Iroh indicated to the little Thunder Tiger to listen to Jacob. Hearing this, the little Thunder Tiger was very dejected. Did its master not want it either? Seeing the little one's reluctance, Iroh went forward to comfort it, saying not to worry, he would definitely come back for it. The little Thunder Tiger also believed his words, then walked toward Jacob. And Jacob gave it a name, promising to take good care of it from now on. After accomplishing everything, Iroh was finally relieved that Thunder Tiger wouldn't be an enemy in the future. At the same time, Iroh remembered another thing. He needed to give Thunder Tiger the light attribute stone. Once he grows up, you'll understand his importance. As they chatted, the sun began to set. It was also time for Jacob to say goodbye to Iroh. Though they hadn't found the Dragon Clan here, there were still unexpected gains. At this moment, Iroh noticed it was too quiet beside him. When he turned around, the siblings were pouting with their arms crossed. They declared they wouldn't play with him anymore. Iroh could only smile awkwardly. How could he have forgotten about this? He then took out 2 high-grade spirit medicines. When they saw the medicine, they instantly forgot about their earlier grievances. Iroh always treats us the best. Iroh's group finally arrived at Port Prue. Connie and Shauna were fascinated by this place. Before even entering the city, they had already planned to play for 3 days and nights. Just stepping through the city gates, they saw crowds of people. It was their first time seeing such a populous city. They also spotted some foxfolk they had never seen before. Finn gestured to the two that they shouldn't be too surprised, as Port Prue was a special town. Due to trade between the autumn and winter continents, this was one of the most populated cities on the continent. Iroh gazed at this prosperous port lost in thought. He hadn't expected it would take half a year to get here, and now he just wanted to get home quickly. Suddenly the siblings clung to him, chattering non-stop. Iroh was quite speechless about this. Then Pablo interrupted everyone, because they had reached their destination. When Iroh got off and looked, he felt very confused. He hadn't expected the place Pablo mentioned would look so ordinary. Pablo could only scratch his head embarrassedly, as it had been 10 years since he last came here. As the main door slowly opened, a blonde girl appeared before them. Upon entering, Pablo carefully examined the place, trying to find familiar faces. The girl quickly noticed something was off. Could you be Uncle Pablo? This startled Pablo. Seeing this, the girl introduced herself. I'm Mona. Don't you remember us? That's when Pablo finally remembered. Could that little one have grown so big? Then Mona beckoned her sister to come out and look. Subsequently, a red-haired girl walked out from the room, and Lucia immediately recognized Uncle Pablo. Seeing them so enthusiastic, Iroh knew they must have known each other for a long time. Meanwhile, Pablo looked around, curious about where their parents were. The sisters directly told Pablo about it. Their parents had passed away in a car accident 3 years ago. Pablo hadn't expected such a thing to happen. He felt very sorry about it. He then indicated that they should come to him if they had any difficulties. After all, he and Hammond had been brothers who faced life and death together. Just then, Lucia noticed the children behind Pablo. Are they your children? Hearing this, Pablo quickly denied it. He then firmly stated they were his nephews. But the sisters weren't so easily fooled. They could tell Pablo was being evasive. When Mona crouched down to look at the twins, 2 adorable little faces appeared before her eyes. Her girlish heart was instantly struck. Who could resist such illegally cute faces? She immediately hugged them. Indeed, girls can't resist cute things. Meanwhile, Lucia noticed Iroh standing to the side. Little brother, are you hungry? Iroh nodded slightly. He did feel a bit hungry. Hearing this, the sisters immediately ran off to make something delicious for everyone. Iroh put on a face that seemed to say, how lonely it is to be invincible. Look at my delightful charm. The scene shifts. Iroh lazily lay on the bed. It had been a long time since he'd eaten so happily. At this moment, Iroh was also curious about how Pablo knew them. Pablo told Iroh about his past. Their parents were friends from when he worked as a mercenary. Finally, to raise their children, they ended their mercenary life and opened this inn. Meanwhile, Iroh reminded Pablo if he had forgotten something. Don't forget why we came here. Pablo certainly remembered, but they had just arrived. Seeing Iroh's murderous look, Pablo quickly ran off, saying he would go find a ship right away. Iroh also indicated that Finn should go along, and help them bring back some spirit medicine while they were at it. Just then Iroh noticed the sudden silence behind him. When he looked back, he found the siblings had fallen asleep. These 2 just know how to play all day, they must be exhausted. Well then, I think I'll rest a bit too. A moment later, their door was pushed open by Mona. But Lucia found that her sister stopped talking as soon as she opened the door, which made her puzzled. Then she discovered that all 3 had fallen asleep. Who knew they would look so cute even while sleeping? So the 2 withdrew. Let them rest well. After 2 months of travel, Iroh could finally get a good night's sleep. When he woke up, Lucia was preparing breakfast for them. The siblings were already impatient. Meanwhile, Iroh also inquired about traveling to the autumn continent. Pablo had confirmed the ship's departure time. They would set sail in 2 weeks. But they hadn't found the spirit medicine they needed to eat. This was within Iroh's expectations, as ordinary people might never see spirit medicine in their lifetime. Human food only tastes good but doesn't help Dragon Clan growth at all. The boat trip to the autumn continent would take about 2 months. They had to prepare cultivation resources before departing no matter what. Pablo told Iroh not to worry too much. After all, this was where all the winter continent's resources gathered. If they couldn't find it here, other places would be even less likely. It will have to do for now. Just then, a large roasted chicken suddenly landed on the table. This was the breakfast Mona had prepared for everyone. This left Pablo dumbfounded. Who would have such a luxurious breakfast? Mona just snorted, saying it was prepared for the little ones. Pablo, though embarrassed, couldn't help but try a bite. After all, he hadn't said he wouldn't eat. After just one small piece, Pablo couldn't stop praising it. Because it tasted exactly like what their parents used to make. Then Pablo asked about Lucia's singing. When she was young, she had great musical talent. Whenever Lucia sang, the inn would be packed with people. Just then, Iroh noticed something unusual about the sisters. Because when Pablo brought up this matter, the 2's emotions were clearly off. Iroh immediately gave Pablo a punch to the waist. Pablo, who doesn't know it, is still in a state of shock. When he looked up, he finally noticed the sisters' condition. Lucia no longer sang. Why should such talent be buried? Just as Mona was about to answer, a commotion behind them interrupted everyone. 4 thuggish-looking men appeared at the inn's entrance. This made Iroh very puzzled. Were they here to cause trouble? But the nearby guests seemed used to it, as if they had already guessed what would happen next. Pablo got up immediately. If you want to bully them, you have to think about yourself first. Then suddenly the 4 men stood in 2 rows. Subsequently, a man walked in through the main door. He bowed to Miss Mona with one hand, then turned to Lucia. The next second a bouquet of flowers appeared before her. It seemed he was her suitor. This cheesy behavior gave Iroh goosebumps. Where did this youth come from? But Iroh could also know that Lucia didn't seem very willing. Before she could speak, the man stopped her. Just seeing your face today has brought peace to my heart. Lucia could only awkwardly hold the flowers the man gave her. Just as the yellow-haired man was about to leave, Iroh looked up. Their gazes met. The yellow-haired man showed a look of contempt. Seeing this, Iroh instantly became furious. This guy was clearly mocking him. Soon Iroh thought of a counter-strategy. I'm so sleepy, can Sister Lucia hug me to sleep? This left Pablo dumbfounded. Lucia didn't hesitate and immediately picked Iroh up. I'll carry you back to your room to sleep. While the yellow-haired man trembled with anger. Kid, you're still too green to mess with the great me. Let's see if you can get enough of this vinegar. The unbearable yellow-haired man could only storm out of the inn angrily. Seeing this scene, Pablo was very puzzled. If he hadn't seen wrong, that kid seemed jealous. Mona shook her head helplessly. He's Kelly, son of the boxer. Hearing this, Pablo was stunned. Could it be Boxing King Tyrus? Mona confirmed it, saying he was no longer a fighter but now a baron. This made Pablo's jaw drop. It turned out Tyrus had once been a top fighter. He pacified Port-Pruz gangs and was awarded the title of baron by the Lord. Pablo was very proud, saying he knew that kid would make something of himself someday. But just now his son seemed to have feelings for Lucia. Why not let Lucia respond properly? Mentioning this gave Mona a headache. She didn't know what to do about this matter either. Pablo didn't understand, because whether in terms of family or looks, Kelly was acceptable. Then Mona revealed the reason. Because Kelly was only 14 years old, while Lucia was already 22. This left Pablo completely stunned. Who would have thought that guy was only 14, though young in age, his appetite wasn't small. Speaking of this made Mona very annoyed, telling these old folks to stop teasing. The scene shifts to the room. Through Pablo's search, they finally found some places to buy medicinal materials. So Iroh immediately stopped what he was doing. Resolving the spirit medicine issue was now most important. When he got up, the siblings also said they wanted to go along, but if they brought them along, progress would definitely be slower. So Iroh directly refused. Seeing this, the two started throwing tantrums. But Iroh was already used to this. Meanwhile, a voice interrupted everyone. It turned out Mona and Lucia had prepared some new clothes for them. Seeing the new clothes, the siblings quickly put them on. The two were deeply attracted by how cute the children looked. Mona worried their clothes were too thin, so she casually prepared several sets, not expecting them to look so good when worn. How did Uncle Pablo raise these children? Letting them wear such thin clothes in the dead of winter, Pablo couldn't explain. They were Dragon Clan after all. Then Iroh asked Lucia to help look after the siblings. Because it wasn't convenient to bring them along now. Will you definitely be able to find spirit medicine? Pablo firmly assured him they would. So the two set off with confident strides. Time quickly changed from noon to dusk. A dejected boy sat by the street. Pablo could only kneel beside him crying bitter tears. Who would have thought none of the medicine shops could find spirit medicine? If this continues, I'll be the first person to die of malnutrition. Just then, some noisy voices caught their attention. They saw some people blocking others' path on the main street. When they looked, they found it was Kelly. It seemed he had encountered big trouble. Because even he, a baron's son, found it difficult to handle. This person's background must not be simple. Suddenly another group joined in. Scarface menacingly threatened Kelly. Can I understand this as you declaring war on us? Kelly's guards immediately sensed something was wrong. These guys were clearly picking a fight on purpose. Aren't you afraid my father will come after you? Scarface pretended to think for a moment. Then showed a mocking expression. I don't think he'll know about what happened today. Just then Pablo interrupted everyone. Waving knives around in broad daylight doesn't look too good. Kelly recognized him as the uncle from the shop. Seeing this, Scarface warned him not to meddle. Pablo confidently brushed his hair. Even after 10 years away, has no one heard of the name Pablo? All the underlings trembled upon hearing this name. Could it be Blood Axe Pablo? So the underling told Kelly some things. Before the Baron was awarded his title, when he was fighting to unite the gangs, he accidentally fell into the enemy's trap. In the end, it was Pablo alone who took up an axe and rescued the Baron. That's when Kelly learned the uncle before him was his father's often mentioned lifesaver. I didn't expect to meet you in such a place. I've long admired your name, uncle. Pablo's little face turned red with embarrassment. This isn't anything special, no need to make a fuss. While Scarface also went up to greet him. I'm Damon, from a small organization managing the port. When Iroh got close to him, he found something was off. What was this aura emanating from that guy? After bidding farewell to Pablo, Damon left. This made Pablo feel strange too. Did that guy just leave like this? Iroh had a bad feeling. This guy would surely bring disaster sooner or later. Time moves to evening. Tyrus finally met his old friend from years ago. It had been over 10 years since they last saw each other. "You heartless guy, not coming back to see us for over 10 years. Pablo could only laugh awkwardly. After all, the bandit life wasn't easy. Looking at this magnificent living room made Pablo very pleased. Who would have thought that kid who only knew how to fight would become so successful? Just then Pablo noticed Iroh's expression. Then he explained their purpose for coming here. Was there any news about precious spirit medicine? Tyrus told him not to worry, because as soon as he got the message earlier, he had sent people to look. Meanwhile, Iroh asked if there would be any problems looking for spirit medicine, because the situation earlier seemed like someone was targeting them. Pablo enthusiastically introduced him. "This is my little nephew." Tyrus was also helpless, saying that Damon guy was indeed troublesome. This puzzled Pablo. Did they dare to provoke nobles? Then Tyrus told them about recent events. Many ships had mysteriously developed problems, making merchants doubt their influence. Damon also took the opportunity to get involved. As long as Port Prue operated stably, the Lord would turn a blind eye. After all, he also came from a thug background. After hearing this, Pablo had a massive headache. This was even less comfortable than his mountain stronghold. Then Tyrus changed the subject. "We haven't seen each other in so long, we can't just talk about such depressing things." Then Pablo glanced at Iroh seeking approval. Given his efforts in searching for spirit medicine, let him play to his heart's content this once. Seeing Iroh's gesture, Pablo showed a delighted expression. That meant he agreed. "Tonight we drink until we're drunk." Before leaving, Tyrus instructed Kelly to take good care of Iroh. This left the two stunned, with expressions showing neither would submit to the other. "I can't believe I have to play with you, little bitty." Because in Kelly's eyes, Iroh was just a kid who knew nothing. But since his father had given him this task, he naturally had to do it well. He could only reluctantly take Iroh to his room to play. Hearing this, Iroh smugly hummed a tune letting him lead the way. Arriving at the room, Kelly told him to just stay put, but before he finished speaking, Iroh had already started playing with the figurines on his own, which startled Kelly. He immediately snatched back the figurine. "This is my limited edition Iron Soldier. I don't even dare play with it myself," Iroh frowned. "Indeed, men remain boys until death." Just then Iroh also noticed papers on the table, and saw Lucia's name. "My Lady Lucia, wearing the crystal necklace." Hearing this, Kelly immediately became flustered like a boiling teapot. He quickly turned to grab the necklace, but Iroh had already taken it first. When the box slowly opened, a dazzling light burst forth from inside. A tear-shaped blue gemstone came into view. Before Iroh could examine it carefully, Kelly snatched it back and hugged it to his chest. "The necklace is nice, but the writing is quite ugly. The necklace should suit Sister Lucia well." Hearing Iroh say this, Kelly was very happy, because he had spent a lot of time searching before finding this necklace. Iroh was puzzled. Aren't there such necklaces in the outside shops? Of course not. Its name is Celine's Tears. Iroh nodded. It did look better than ordinary ones. But the next instant he suddenly froze. Could that really be Celine's Tears? Kelly confirmed it, saying craftsmen had authenticated it. Iroh was also very shocked internally. How could that thing be here? Legend says the Sea King was the ruler of the ocean. He loved his daughter more than anyone else. He collected his daughter's last tears and made them into the Celine's Tears gemstone. Most importantly, this was the key to the underwater maze. The Sea King's underwater maze was an important summoning place for the original story's protagonists. "I must get Celine's Tears before them." Iroh burst out laughing, then called out "brother," which startled Kelly. Did he hear wrong? When he looked down, he saw Iroh clutching his little hands with puckered lips. "Big brother, can you give me this pretty necklace?" This left Kelly dumbfounded. Which nerve had misfired? But the boy told him his plan would definitely fail. This suddenly made Kelly panic. Have women always liked expensive gifts? Iroh directly denied this. At least Sister Lucia won't casually accept gifts just because they're expensive. This plan of yours won't work. Since I see you're so sincere, let me teach you. After Iroh's explanation, Kelly wrote down everything he said. The most important thing was to form a close relationship, then gradually convey your feelings. Iroh nodded satisfactorily. Also avoid sudden confessions and too many gifts. Approaching someone in a way that makes them feel burdened will have the opposite effect. This left Kelly speechless, because these behaviors were all opposite to his previous ones. However, Iroh was curious. Why do you like Lucia? Is there a reason? Speaking of this, Kelly's face immediately turned red. It was 5 years ago when I first saw her. The moment Kelly first saw her singing at the Siren Inn. His dark future became as bright as day. A moment later, Iroh was stunned. You've said this many times already. But Kelly felt Lucia's voice was truly beautiful, just like a fairy from heaven. But why did she stop singing later? Speaking of this, Kelly also sighed, saying it was quite regrettable. Once, Lucia's favorite singer came to perform at the port. She pestered her parents to take her to the show. Then this incident happened on the way to the venue. A runaway carriage came flying toward them. When Lucia woke up, her parents lay in pools of blood. Later, probably due to the shock of that accident, Lucia could no longer sing. Iroh hadn't expected this to be the reason. Thinking that her parents died because of her love for singing, she became unable to make a sound. Then Iroh's mouth curved into a slight smile. If I cure Sister Lucia, I might get Celine's tears. Then Iroh changed the subject. Sister Lucia experienced such a thing, yet you still want to give her this necklace? Hearing this, Kelly was very confused. Why not? Have you forgotten the meaning of this necklace? If Sister Lucia received such a gift, wouldn't it make her recall forgotten nightmares? Kelly was suddenly struck as if by lightning. He indeed hadn't thought it through. Iroh sighed helplessly. You really are completely hopeless. If I have a way to make Sister Lucia sing again, would you give me Celine's tears? The little blonde was instantly dumbfounded. How could this be possible? Don't you want to see Lucia sing again? Kelly strongly affirmed this. Is this necklace worth more to you than Sister Lucia? How could that be? As long as Lucia sings again, I'd give this necklace to anyone. Hearing this, Iroh clapped his little hands. Plan successful. If I do it, you can't go back on your word. Kelly immediately frowned. He felt something was off but couldn't quite place it. Seeing the little blonde hesitate, Iroh added fuel to the fire. Talking like you'd give the whole world. Turns out it was just a child saying childish things. Hearing Iroh say this, Kelly naturally couldn't tolerate it. Iroh didn't give him a chance to react. Deal. A gentleman's word is his bond. The scene shifts. Iroh had returned to the inn. Mona, seeing Iroh alone, was puzzled. Where did Uncle Pablo go? After learning the reason, she became angry. How could they let a child return alone? Iroh quickly changed the subject, saying he wanted to know where Sister Lucia was. Then Mona told him directly, she's upstairs. Hearing this, Iroh went upstairs. Once I cure Sister Lucia, the mission will be complete. A moment later, there was a knock on Lucia's door. Seeing it was Iroh, Lucia was very happy. And now, the plan begins. The boy used an instrument for the first time, and left the young girl utterly astonished, because the talent he displayed made even her, known as a musical prodigy, feel inadequate. Could a child really possess such ability? Little did she know that the seemingly innocent child before her was actually a dragon who left no bones behind when devouring prey. When Iroh returned from outside, he immediately went to find Lucia. He knew about the trauma in Lucia's heart, so he had to find a way to help her overcome it. Upon seeing Iroh, Lucia directly invited him into her room. After entering, Iroh seemed to be searching for something, as he remembered Lucia loved a particular instrument. Seeing how neatly her room was decorated, Iroh couldn't help but praise it, saying it looked very pleasant. Hearing Iroh's compliment, Lucia became much happier. After all, what girl doesn't like being praised? Meanwhile, Iroh spotted that instrument nearby. Then Iroh curiously asked Lucia about it. This is called a hume, an instrument used for playing music. Hearing this, Iroh gestured excitedly. Then Iroh looked at her with pleading eyes. Seeing Iroh's sincere gaze, although she hadn't touched an instrument in a long time, she nodded in agreement. After a moment of adjustment, Lucia gradually calmed her emotions. Then she gently plucked the strings. The accompaniment and singing slowly drifted into Iroh's ears. This made Iroh's jaw drop in amazement, because Lucia looked truly beautiful when singing. No wonder that fellow Kelly was enchanted. The gentle voice combined with crisp accompaniment drew people in unconsciously. As the last note fell, Lucia finally breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately after, Iroh stood up and applauded continuously. Although Lucia felt her playing wasn't very smooth, Iroh thought it was the most wonderful music in the world. He immediately expressed his desire to learn the instrument. This made Lucia pause in surprise. After seeing Iroh's determined eyes, Lucia turned to a cabinet nearby. Then she searched for something inside. Soon she took out a small instrument. This was the hume she used as a child. So now she decided to give it to Iroh as a gift. Then Lucia patted his little head, saying it was late today, they'd start practicing tomorrow. Upon hearing this, Iroh ran back to his own room, and told Finn about his plan after returning. But she thought using mental magic to modify memories would be better. Iroh had considered this approach too, but doing so would only backfire, as the wound would eventually break open again. So she needed to overcome this difficulty on her own. And the elf had no other solutions. It seemed they couldn't depart on the scheduled date this time either. The scene shifts to 3 days later. After these days of practice, Iroh had completely mastered the instrument's scales. Even Lucia watched him with disbelief. He could truly be called a musical genius. Learning scales in 1 day, music theory in 2 days, and by the 3rd day he could play pieces that even some adults couldn't master. Could a child really possess such abilities? Having finished a song, Iroh was still eager for more, wondering which piece he should play next. Lucia could only look at him awkwardly. The scene shifts to another location. A concert poster was on the street's bulletin board. Damon looked at the poster in his hand with confusion. A subordinate beside him jumped out to explain that this was the concert, part of the annual harvest prayer ceremony. The champion of the concert would receive generous rewards. Hearing this, Damon smiled wickedly. Then he crumpled the poster in his hand. He hoped as many people as possible would come to the concert. A spirit drug potent enough to overwhelm humans. Yet in this city, not even one could be bought. Combining various previous signs, the boy deduced he might not be human anymore. Time returns to morning. Pablo walked drunkenly through the streets. He had been drinking for 3 days and nights straight. But he felt that compared to himself from 10 years ago, he had become pathetically weak. Just a few days of drinking and he was already exhausted. When he reached the inn's entrance, he heard music coming from inside. This surprised him greatly. Could Lucia be singing again? But upon opening the door, he was dumbfounded to see it was actually Iroh. Seeing Pablo reeking of alcohol, Iroh looked disgusted, saying, "You really drank yourself senseless." Pablo felt embarrassed and quickly changed the subject. Then he shifted topics, saying, "I've never seen you use an instrument before. Did you know how to play it previously?" Iroh directly denied this, saying Sister Lucia had taught him just 3 days ago. It was his first time touching such an instrument. Seeing Iroh play beautiful melodies after just a few days, Pablo was utterly shocked. "You're too incredible even for a dragon. It's really unfair comparing myself to you." Meanwhile, Iroh asked if he had resolved the spirit drug issue. At this moment, Pablo proudly declared, "Of course I found 20 low-grade spirit drugs." Iroh gave him a look of disdain. "Just low-grade, and only 20? Hearing this, Pablo felt hurt, saying he'd spent days searching, practically turning the entire port upside down. Iroh sensed something was wrong. With such large-scale trade at the port, why was there a shortage of spirit drugs? Could there be some facility collecting or researching them? Pablo shook his head, saying he'd never heard of such a place. This made Iroh more suspicious. Someone had bought up large quantities of spirit drugs before them. Usually, spirit drugs were used for enhancing attributes. Though humans could take them, they couldn't consume too many, so there was no need for large-scale purchases. If someone was buying spirit drugs in large quantities over time, it meant they were feeding something. Come to think of it, Pablo also found it strange that Terrace knew nothing about people buying large quantities of spirit drugs. Iroh furrowed his brow, saying this indicated someone was deliberately concealing this matter. Soon he thought of something. "If I'm not mistaken, this must be connected to him." Then Iroh asked Pablo to investigate who had been buying the spirit drugs, and to determine where these items were flowing to. Then he asked Finn to assist Pablo in the investigation. Pablo scratched his chin, asking if there was any particular reason for this. Though Iroh couldn't be completely certain, he said it must be connected to that fellow called Damon, and he might be even more insane than expected. Just as Pablo was about to return to his room for sleep, Iroh hurriedly urged him to take action. Pablo complained pitifully, "I haven't even sobered up yet. Looks like it's been too long since I beat you up. I don't mind helping you remember." Hearing this, Pablo rushed out the door, muttering that being a servant really meant having no rights. When he pushed open the door, he was stunned by the scene before him. Iroh was very curious about this. Pablo indicated that the prayer ceremony was about to begin. Now this city was known for trade, but it used to be a small fishing village primarily engaged in fishing. For the safety and success of those who went to sea back then, they held an annual full-ship prayer festival. So this tradition continues to this day, and the biggest highlight of this festival is tonight's beauty night. Singers from across the city would gather to compete, with nice rewards for first place. In the past, whenever Lucia entered, she basically dominated the championship. This sounded quite good. Then Iroh asked him for another favor. That was to help him register for beauty night. The scene shifts to another location. Lucia quietly looked at the instrument before her heart very conflicted at this moment. Just then, a knock at the door interrupted her. She thought Iroh had come looking for music sheets. But Iroh shook his head, as he hadn't come for the music. Iroh put on a pitiful expression, saying he heard about the festival and asked if she could take him outside to see it. Hearing about something fun, the twins raised both hands in agreement. Lucia thought for a moment, saying the festival time was the busiest. But it was also when the inn received guests, so they couldn't leave casually. Just then a voice interrupted everyone. Mona decided to go see the festival together. After all, these little ones wanted to join in the fun too. The inn wouldn't go bankrupt from taking one day off. They could play carefree today and work hard starting tomorrow. Hearing this, Lucia nodded. In that case, let's head out now. Soon everyone changed into their outdoor clothes. And all this was within Iroh's plan. Now it was time to move on to the next phase. The elf just poked her head out, and was immediately scared into a cold sweat, because she hadn't expected to see a monster like an octopus before her. At this moment, Finn was sneaking to a warehouse by the river, because according to Pablo's investigation, all the spirit drugs had disappeared into this warehouse. So he felt there must be a big secret hidden inside. But due to his large size, it wasn't conducive to investigation. So this task was ultimately given to Finn. Due to her fairy-sized body, Finn easily reached the top of the warehouse. Then two men appeared before her. Taking advantage of their inattention, Finn slid inside the warehouse. From their conversation, she learned they had been guarding this place for some time. It seemed to be a task arranged by Damon. Just then, a terrifying roar suddenly came from behind the door. It didn't sound like a beast, more like some horrifying monster. The two underlings knew it was hungry again, and this time the guy in suspenders was delivering food. Despite his unwillingness, he gritted his teeth and took the box of food over. Meanwhile, to find out what was in the box, Finn bribed the warehouse rats. Then the rats flashed past the man's feet like lightning. The guy in suspenders fell flat on his face, and the contents of his box spilled out. Seeing this, Finn was startled. She hadn't expected the boxes to be full of spirit drugs. It seemed necessary to investigate what kind of monster they were feeding. So Finn took advantage of them chasing rats, and quietly hid in a box of spirit drugs. In the end, they didn't catch any rats. The man could only hurriedly deliver the spirit drugs. Through the gap she could see him walking toward the river. Could the monster be hiding in the water? The man carefully put down the spirit drugs in his hands, then curiously looked back. Meanwhile the monster's roar came again. The man was scared trembling, and hurriedly ran back to the room. After all, curiosity killed the cat. After feeling the man had left, Finn popped her head out of the spirit drugs. But a black shadow blocked her vision. When she saw clearly, she was startled. She hadn't expected to see an octopus-like monster staring intently at her. The scene shifts to another location. Iroh's group was touring the streets. Mona was explaining the scale of the festival to them, saying this was the largest festival on the winter continent. Looking at the lively scene before him, Iroh had never seen such excitement even in his previous life. Just as Iroh was lost in thought, a string of fruit was held before him. Lucia gestured for him to try it, saying this was only available during festival time. So Iroh took a small bite. It felt just like the candied hawthorns he ate before. Lucia thought it was his first time trying it, and gestured for him to eat more. Meanwhile, the sound of a Hume came drifting over. Iroh knew the festival competition had begun, so he immediately took Lucia's hand and rushed to the side. Currently, there was an old man performing on stage. However, his music was torturing Iroh's ears, and Lucia could only smile awkwardly. It seemed the quality of contestants varied greatly. I think Sister Lucia plays much better than them. Hearing this, Lucia was stunned. Just then Iroh interrupted him. Soon the two came before the person in charge. He had already registered himself and Lucia for the competition. When the organizer heard Lucia's name, he was startled. People around started discussing among themselves, because they all knew something about what had happened to Lucia years ago. Feeling everyone's eyes on her, Lucia's breathing became rapid. She seemed unable to escape the shadow of the past. Just then Iroh grabbed her hand. "Don't worry, Sister Lucia, I'll handle the singing from here. You just need to handle the accompaniment." But would Lucia accept Iroh's invitation? The boy sang just one modern song, and moved the audience to tears. Because in this world without entertainment, modern songs were simply overwhelming. To help Lucia overcome her mental block, Iroh directly extended an invitation to her. Hearing this, Lucia was slightly stunned. She was very nervous at this moment, but didn't know how to refuse a child's invitation. The judge helped push things along, saying if they didn't go up now, it would be the next person's turn. Hearing this, Iroh ran onto the stage to greet the audience, and tried to liven up the atmosphere. Then he issued another invitation to Lucia from the stage. This time Lucia didn't hesitate and walked toward the stage. When she faced the audience below, the fear in her heart was still unconquerable. Her whole body felt out of her control. However, Iroh was prepared for this. He then held Lucia's hand and cast a mental magic spell on her. Seeing this, Lucia felt incredible. At this moment her heart became much calmer, no longer having the nervousness from when she first came up. Then she gestured to Iroh, saying he would handle the singing, while she would accompany him. And now it was time for my performance. When the audience saw a child about to sing, they felt incredulous. They had previously thought Lucia would be singing. But when Iroh sang just the first line, he amazed everyone present. For this other world, modern music was simply overwhelming. It directly moved the audience to tears. Even Lucia was stunned. She only reacted when Iroh gestured to her. Then she gently plucked the strings. With the accompaniment coordination, Iroh also brought the atmosphere to its peak. As the last note fell, the audience below was completely silent. Until someone started applauding, they came back to their senses from the beautiful music. Iroh breathed a sigh of relief after finishing. This round was easily handled. Your little master is really a genius. I could even debut now. Looking at Iroh singing and dancing so freely, Lucia's eyes were filled with both admiration and conflict. The scene changes. Back at the inn, everyone praised Iroh's singing. Hearing this made Iroh's nose point to the sky in pride. But Lucia walked alone to her room. As her sister, how could Mona not know what she was thinking? When Lucia was lying quietly on her bed, her door was soon knocked on. Mona looked worriedly at Lucia lying on the bed without saying a word. She knew what Lucia was thinking. So she smiled and asked Lucia how her day was. Because she saw Lucia's joy when standing on stage from below. Surely your fears must have gotten much better. I'm also very happy to see you on stage after so long. Meanwhile, Lucia slowly sat up. Choking up as she asked, "Don't you hate me?" Hearing this, Mona directly denied her thoughts. She had never had such thoughts. And both parents made their choice to protect their beloved child. And like mom and dad, I'm one of the people who loves you most in the world, so don't say such things anymore. Although I can't ask you to start singing right away, I still hope you can do what you like as before. Because our Lucia is most beautiful when singing. At this moment Iroh was quietly listening to their conversation outside the door. It seems the plan was going very smoothly. Time to move on to the next step. Soon Iroh returned to his room. But what met his eyes was Finn lying painfully on the ground. Iroh gently picked her up in his hands. But before Finn could finish speaking, she passed out from her severe injuries. Damn it, what happened? The reckless man actually tried to threaten the little boy before him. But soon he would pay a terrible price. Because the seemingly harmless child before him was actually a dragon that don't actually spit bone crumbs. When Iroh returned to his room, he found Finn had already fainted from serious injuries. So he sent Pablo to check on the situation. But when he opened the door, there were only two confused people inside. Seeing the boxes full of spirit drugs made Pablo very angry. No wonder he could only buy 20 spirit drugs after searching the entire port. It turned out to be these guys doing, which made Pablo more certain they were feeding some monster. Meanwhile, a voice interrupted him. Damon appeared calmly before Pablo, saying although he didn't know what happened, they could have a friendly chat. Hearing this, Pablo released the man. Very well, then explain what these spirit drugs are about. Surely you must be plotting something. Damon had a mocking expression. What plot? I don't know what you're talking about. These are spirit drugs I bought through legal means. Is it illegal for me to sell herbs? Pablo knew he couldn't outtalk him, so he directly took out his hammer. I suppose you won't mind if I check around? And Damon didn't stop Pablo, letting him look around freely. Meanwhile, Pablo directly opened a side door. Soon arrived below the dark river. Meanwhile, Damon followed down as well, and smiled while telling stories about the port's past, but Pablo had no time to listen to his nonsense. So he gathered strength in his hand, then unexpectedly threw his hammer into the distance. But after a long while, there was still no sound. Pablo knew these guys must have been prepared. Still uneasy, he decided to go investigate, while Damon behind him remained silent, because he knew Pablo would soon return empty-handed. Seeing Pablo's frustrated look, Damon darkly reminded him, Mr. Pablo, if you keep making things difficult for me, I won't be able to just stand by. Pablo felt very helpless about this, and could only slink away from there, while Iroh had been waiting outside for a long time. To make Damon lower his guard, he had to act like a harmless child. Then Pablo told Iroh about what just happened, and this situation was exactly what Iroh had expected. So Iroh friendly greeted Damon. Uncle Damon, hello, we met on the street last time. A subordinate nearby also recognized him. He was the boy who performed with Lucia on stage tonight. Hearing this, Damon showed a chilling smile. You're the little friend who performed with Lucia. You sang very well. But I'm curious how you persuaded Lucia. Then he changed topics. Can you help me persuade your uncle? Iroh put on an innocent expression. If you push someone into a corner without any evidence, they might end up dead like Lucia's parents. This made Pablo lose control of his temper, directly wanting to give him a couple hits with the hammer, but was stopped by Iroh. I apologize for my uncle's behavior, I will properly advise him. Hearing Iroh's words, Damon nodded satisfactorily. Very good, a wise man knows better. Just as Damon was getting up, Iroh noticed the ancient flute hidden on his body. So Iroh directly asked where he bought it. This instantly startled Damon internally. However, seeing Iroh's harmless face, he let down his guard. It's just a toy bought from the street. Then hurriedly left. Pablo thought they might not be able to handle this alone, so suggested whether to notify Terrace. But Iroh directly refused, because once Terrace leaves home, the battle between the two gangs would likely break out, causing many innocent casualties. Besides, this matter can't affect my plans. This will be the most lively festival ever. Back in his room, Damon was very angry, because he didn't know how Pablo had tracked this place. Angrily, he directly dealt with the subordinate before him. Since Pablo had caught the scent, he had to act before being discovered. Tomorrow during the Beauty Night Finals, release that thing. That will be the most interesting festival. The Sea King's horn flute that could command monsters had been forgotten for 1,000 years. Yet now it was picked up by a street rat. To satisfy his selfish desires, he aimed his spear at the city's common people. Since Damon had hidden the monster in advance, Iroh and Pablo could only leave first. Pablo was very puzzled at this moment. Will that guy really make his move tonight? Iroh confirmed this. We've caught some of his weaknesses. If this guy's goal is to bring down Terrace, he'll create chaos during the festival. Then act like he's cleaning up the mess, presumably to leave a good impression on the city lord. Can he control monsters like Jacob? Iroh denied Pablo's speculation, because he had no mental attributes. However, there was one thing that could make up for this deficiency. That was the Sea King's horn flute. Legend says the Sea King's horn flute was carved from an ancient dragon's horn. If used to tame sea monsters, one could freely control them. Although Iroh didn't know where he got such a treasure. However, if they could snatch it, it would be very helpful for their return journey. Then Iroh suddenly changed topics. Anyway, that guy will definitely take action today, so you need to keep monitoring around the port. Pablo was dumbfounded. Just me alone? Of course, because I have something very important to do. The scene shifts to Iroh returning to the city. Just then he noticed a suspicious figure by the window. Looking at the outfit, it seemed to be that fellow Kelly. Next moment Iroh appeared behind him, scaring Kelly into a cold sweat. You wouldn't be thinking of something inappropriate, would you? Hearing this, Kelly hurriedly explained. I'm just happy that Lucia is participating in the competition. Iroh smiled mockingly. Why are you so nervous then? Kelly was speechless. It's because I was scared by a certain kid. Meanwhile, Iroh asked Kelly to bring more people to the square. Surely this would be simple for him? Hearing this, Kelly was very puzzled. Is there not enough people tonight? While Iroh didn't explain further, you wouldn't find this too difficult, would you? This fired Kelly up. I'll definitely get my family to fill up the entire square tonight. And all this was within Iroh's expectations. Then Iroh called out to him again. Remember to prepare a bouquet tonight. This should be very beneficial for you. Scene changes. The streets were now so crowded that the port became very lively. Iroh hadn't expected so many people to come. There was barely room to walk. Soon the two arrived below the stage. Looking at the contestants on stage, Lucia hadn't thought she would have the courage to come here. If not for Iroh's help, she wouldn't even dare to think about it. Just when the host called out Lucia and Iroh's names, a sense of fear made her breathing become rapid. But she was quickly brought back to reality. Iroh knew she hadn't completely let go inside. Because her parents' death had left Lucia with a strong sense of guilt. Don't keep running away from a painful memory. Surely your family wouldn't want to see you like this. Lucia hadn't expected Iroh to know about her situation. Then Iroh directly walked onto the stage. Think about how your parents would most want to see you. After a moment's adjustment, Iroh gently strummed the strings. Then a crisp voice came from his mouth. This voice was very magical, with color and warmth, seeming to contain many emotional stories. Meanwhile, the audience below also remembered. This was the lullaby their parents sang to them as children. Soon everyone was immersed in it. And Lucia also recalled her happiest times. This made her unconsciously shed tears. She now knew how her parents most wanted to see her. Seeing Lucia start singing again, Iroh knew she had walked out of that shadow. Seeing her sister sing again, Mona below the stage was very happy. Her sunny sister had finally returned. As their performance ended, Kelly excitedly jumped up, while the audience also cheered for Lucia. Then Iroh quietly slipped off stage. If he didn't want to disrupt the festival atmosphere, the remaining tasks had to be completed. This sea serpent was humanity's known strongest creature. Yet the boy directly jumped into the water. and countered with an attack. Because the seemingly harmless boy was actually a dragon standing at the pyramid's peak. When Damon secretly arrived at the port, Pablo had already appeared behind him. This made Damon very helpless. Do you want to end up like that man too? Hearing this, Pablo was very confused. Seeing he still didn't get it, Damon reminded him, following me secretly is very likely to result in accidents, just like those two girls' father. Pablo knew he was talking about Mona's parents. So all this was your doing? And Damon didn't deny it. He even mockingly said Pablo didn't know what was good for him. This made Pablo very angry. He directly lifted his big hammer and smashed toward him. Next came the thunderous sound of weapons colliding. You didn't think I'd have no fighting ability when dealing with Terrace, did you? Soon people lying in ambush surrounded Pablo. At this moment Damon smiled wickedly. I'll take good care of that pair of sisters. Then Damon took out the horn flute. The real carnival is about to begin. Just then a voice interrupted him. If you want to join the festival, you should go that way. Iroh's sudden appearance puzzled him. Furthermore, he felt this child wasn't afraid of him at all. Little friend, it's not good habit to return home so late. Iroh nodded as well. Sneaking away from the festival will make Sister Lucia sad, so I have to teach you a lesson. Hearing this, Damon found it very interesting. The last person who said that already has grass growing 2.5 meters tall on their grave. Before he finished speaking, he directly took out the twin blades at his waist. But the situation before him left him dumbfounded. He hadn't expected such a tiny child to actually be a mage. Now it's my turn. Iroh swung a punch toward his chest. Although Damon reacted, he was still sent flying several meters. Just when Iroh thought the battle was over, a huge shadow suddenly blocked the light. When he looked up, he saw a giant monster appearing before him. It lunged at him like a fierce wolf. But fortunately Iroh's speed was fast enough. Before he could stop moving, the monster snake whipped its tail at him. Seeing Iroh in such a sorry state, Damon was very satisfied. I'll have to eliminate you before the plan begins. Damn it, I was careless. However, when Damon blew the horn flute again, the monster showed no response. This made him very angry, quickly attacked that fellow. Seeing this, Iroh felt relieved, because it seemed he hadn't fully controlled the monster. This was a good opportunity for Iroh. Then he used mental magic on the monster. Quickly eat that guy below. This scared Damon into a cold sweat. He hurriedly kept blowing the flute, and the monster fell into a frenzied state. Looking at the monster's reaction, it seemed the flute had regained control. This is the city center. If I don't transform into dragon form, I can't win. Just then Iroh noticed the sea behind him. Perhaps this method would work. Iroh kept taunting the monster. Hey sea worm, want to have a competition? After speaking, Iroh directly jumped into the water, and the monster followed closely behind. Seeing this, Damon was very happy. What a foolish fellow. Actually wanting to defeat him in the monster's home field. Come at me, little worm. The monster's speed in water was more than doubled. It swallowed Iroh into its mouth in one bite. However, the next second several beams of light shot out from the monster's mouth. A white young dragon directly pried open its huge mouth. Now that we're underwater, I'm not afraid of being seen. Then Iroh used all his strength, and threw the monster several meters. You thought this was your world just now. You should know you've met your destined nemesis today. One punch should make you cry for a long time. The monster felt very wronged. How could someone bully others like this? It immediately wanted to escape. But Iroh had already locked its body in place. Things aren't over yet. Iroh grabbed the monster's tail and kept swinging it around. Meanwhile on shore, Pablo had dealt with the remaining people. At this moment Pablo noticed the abnormal sea surface. The next instant a sea tornado directly rose up. This was dumbfounding to a few people on the shore. Then the monster's body flew out of the sea surface. Damon had no time to dodge and was directly crushed under the monster's body. The horn flute in his hand was also thrown away. Pablo looked at everything before him in disbelief. Then the sea surface was broken again. A white young dragon rose into the air, but quickly transformed back into a child's appearance. Fighting in dragon form feels much better. At this time Iroh noticed Damon nearby, who was reaching out trying to get back the horn flute. But the next instant a small hand directly picked up the flute. Is this the thing that can control monsters? Curious Iroh wanted to try how it controlled them. But the next second the flute directly cracked. This stunned Iroh. If I glue it back together maybe it can still be used? But before he could finish speaking the flute had turned to fragments. Meanwhile the monster that lost the flute's control went berserk. Then directly charged toward the city center. It was originally a monster from the deep sea. Yet now it was rampaging in a human town. And when it regained consciousness, the first thing it did was to swallow the person who had controlled it. After the monster went berserk, it fled toward the city center. Just as a couple was about to meet disaster, a big hammer smashed hard into its face. Although Pablo was trembling now, he still tried his best to attract the monster's attention. The next instant the monster charged at him. But this was all part of Iroh's strategy. The berserk monster soon fell for the trap. Then the monster crashed into a space wall. When it realized, it was already too late. Now what Iroh needed to do was use mental magic to calm it down. Just as Iroh was preparing the spell, the monster seemed very resistant to this. It frantically rammed its head against the space barrier. While maintaining the space magic stability, Iroh couldn't concentrate on casting high-level magic. Meanwhile Terrace also arrived with people. When he saw the huge creature before him, he was also dumbfounded. But now wasn't the time for idle chat. Then Iroh asked them to set up a trap, because his space barrier couldn't hold much longer. Soon the twins also discovered the commotion here. Then Iroh asked them to go down and buy time. Try to hold the monster until Pablo finished setting up the trap. A moment later Pablo had set up the trap. Hearing this, Iroh directly cancelled the magic. Sensing the barrier disappear, the monster immediately tried to escape. When the monster reached the trap's location, Pablo and others immediately pulled the ropes. In an instant the monster was firmly trapped. However, the monster was very strong. Even dozens of people below had difficulty controlling it. Just as it was about to break free, Iroh cast another space magic. But this time was different from before. The compressed space energy smashed hard onto the monster. And the monster quickly lost its ability to move. Just when the monster thought it was going to die, it felt a warmth coming from above its head. A moment later the monster's eyes were no longer blood red. It seemed to have regained its consciousness. But Terrace nearby suddenly swung his blade at it, but was directly stopped by Iroh. After all, it was just being controlled by humans. Coming to the human town wasn't its own will. Iroh knew Terrace was concerned the monster would harm the port, but he had his own solution. Soon Iroh sent it to the port, and reminded it to stay away from places where humans live from now on. The monster nodded, then turned and swam toward the center of the sea, returning to where it used to live. At this moment, Damon had already fled since his plot was exposed. Just when he thought he could still make a comeback, he felt his whole body go limp. When he looked up, he found the previous monster staring at him fiercely. Then the monster directly threw him up, and swallowed him in one bite. After doing all this, the monster swam back to the deep sea. Meanwhile on the other side, Lucia came down from stage but couldn't find Iroh. This made her very puzzled. While Mona was very happy seeing her sister sing again. If their parents saw this they would be proud of her too. Just then, Mona spotted Kelly skulking nearby. Soon she discovered the flowers behind Kelly's back. Mona understood this kid's intentions, so she decided to help her sister along. The opportunity is right in front of you, you better not waste it. And Kelly was also happy that Lucia returned to the stage. This time Lucia didn't resist like before, but directly accepted the flowers, because she also knew Kelly's feelings. Iroh quietly watched all this from the side. Now leave the remaining time to them. Scene changes to the next day. Iroh's group finally waited for the ship to the autumn continent. It was time to bid them farewell. Mona was very reluctant to part with the children. Pablo felt very hurt nearby. How come no one comforts me? And Mona also hoped Iroh would come back to visit them when free. Seeing Mona crying streams of tears, Iroh could only agree to their request. Then Lucia hugged him tightly, and thanked Iroh for his help. Without Iroh's help, she didn't know how long it would take to walk out of the shadow. Suddenly Iroh felt a cold killing intent from behind, and he took the chance to deepen Kelly's impression. Sister Lucia's embrace is really warm. Then Kelly threw the box in his hand to him. When Iroh opened it, he found it was Saran's tears. But what puzzled him was there was also a ring. It turned out that to thank Iroh for helping Lucia, Kelly gave him his family ring. It could provide help to Iroh in many places. Before leaving, Iroh couldn't help but give him some caring words. But this guy just couldn't lower his pride. And Terrace also came to see Pablo off. He knew these kids weren't ordinary people. After all, who could beat up monsters at such a young age? While Pablo could only say they were children of distant relatives. Terrace didn't ask further, because he knew it involved many secrets. As the ship sailed toward the sea, Iroh's group set off on a new journey again. And Carrie only then thought to ask Iroh where they were going next. From now on we're going to the Autumn Continent's island, Monty Island. Then we'll cross the Autumn Continent by land. Then she asked Pablo how long it would take to get there. But Pablo remained silent. At this moment Pablo was seasick with barely half a life left. Iro felt helpless about this too. He didn't have any medicine to treat seasickness. Then he placed his hand on Pablo's back. Perhaps mental healing would make him feel better. Soon Pablo fell into a drowsy sleep, and Iro let him rest here for half an hour. Just then, a man quietly approached behind Pablo.